actress Karen Holmson is suing her ex-boyfriend, aerospace worker Carrie Miles, for damage to her car and medical expenses. Carrie is countersuing for defamation of character as the result of a slanderous flyer.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 235 on the calendar in the matter of Holmson versus Miles. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Ms. Holmson, your claim is twofold. First, you claim that the defendant, who you were dating for a period of time, damaged your car, and he did it on purpose. He keyed your car, and then he damaged your sunroof and other parts of the car because he was angry. Second part of your claim is that he had agreed to pay for some medical tests for you, and while he gave you some money towards the medical tests, that's what he said, the amount of money that he gave you was not sufficient. But he said, I only agreed to give her $200. Any other tests that she did were tests that she decided to do on her own. Is that right?
Correct, Your Honor.
You also, Mr. Miles, acknowledge that you did cause some damage to the car. But you say that you did pay for that damage, and you're going to prove that to me. Right?
Correct.
So, how long were you dating before you got into this argument with him?
I met him on Valentine's Day, and he did the damage to the car when he keyed the car in April.
April of what year?
Of last year.
So in April of 2001, he keyed your car?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Okay, we got in an argument due to, because we were dating, and a woman had called the home, my home. She said that she just got out of jail and that Steve had come to pick her up and she'd spent some time with him. So we got an argument over that, and I told him I didn't want to see him anymore, and he was drunk as usual. And he left, and I spoke with a neighbor. They said that they saw him.
Don't tell me what a neighbor saw.
Oh, I know. I personally didn't see it, but he laughed at me later to my face and said, ha, ha, ha. Okay? Later on, the woman had called, because he left when he was at work, he had left his cell phone at home, and I answered it. And it was the same woman. Well, this woman was all messed up or something, I don't know. She stated that she had had sex with Mr. Miles. That just hurt me so bad. So I told him that due to the fact that I found out that she was a prostitute and coming out of jail, that I wanted to be tested because I wanted to leave him. And that was only fair. So he admitted that it was his fault, that much in fact he owed me that he would take me to the doctor and pay for all doctor bills. When we went to the doctor, he didn't give me any money. I haven't received a dime. My doctor bills come to $790.50. And at the end of it, it was so ugly when he moved in with me in my apartment on Grant.
You're rambling.
Okay, no. It's very, no, You're
rambling.
Okay,
all
but
right.
anyway.
So let me understand this. It's simple. Your car was keyed, but you didn't see him do it. And your proof is that he looked at you and laughed and said, ha, ha, ha. That's your proof. What other damage was done to the car? He
took my car drunk to the car wash. He obviously had pushed a button in the middle console.
When was this?
I'd say middle of May, because we took the car into the shop.
This was after this woman called you on the telephone?
Yes.
You took the car with him? You let him take the car? Were you still
yes,
together?
Yes, because we had just got through moving. I was having a nervous breakdown.
Just a second. So you were still together at that point?
Yes.
And when did he key your car? What month?
April.
So after he keyed your car, you still lived with him?
Yes.
And then he took the car drunk in May?
Yes.
Do you drink too?
Occasionally,
yes.
But I don't drink and drive.
But you drink too?
Occasionally.
Yes. And you drink a little or a lot?
On occasions, I do drink.
How about today?
No.
How about today?
No.
Yeah. What's the matter?
No.
What's the matter?
Just listening.
Okay. When did you go to the doctor?
6/12.
And when had you received the telephone call from this woman?
2 weeks prior, because he said he had to get some money to take me to the doctor. Well, after he'd agreed to pay so much money, the lab reports came back, and that ended up costing so much more money that he was unaware of, so I sent him.
And when did you finally separate?
He wouldn't leave the home because it's a law that you have to serve somebody and give them 30 days to leave. So I had to leave my own home and go to Alaska, leaving him in charge of my home and my animals. He destroyed my home, didn't feed my animals, wouldn't let my maids in to clean it.
Could you just tell me when you separated?
We separated when I returned from Alaska on July 9th. And, Your Honor, you could see that I need a follow-up because something came back from saying that something was wrong with me, and due to the financial status that he left me in, I have been unable to return to the doctor to find out what is wrong with me. So I've lived with it for months, freaking out, thinking, what is wrong? And I can't afford to go back because I'm a single mom. I just paid for my daughter's wedding and picking up his end of my rent.
Let me explain something to you. If you think you have something wrong with you physically, you take care of that before you pay for your daughter's wedding. Don't talk stupid. Don't talk really stupid, because these tests are over a year old.
I sent them to him. He refuses to pay me.
I'm not talking about him refusing to pay you. I'm talking about if you think that there's something wrong with you physically.
Your Honor, I don't have insurance, and I don't have the money, and it's cost a ton.
How much was your daughter's wedding?
$3,000.
You paid for that? You just told me?
She's entitled to that, Your Honor. I had promised her that.
That's great. That's great. But if you think there's something physiologically wrong with you, then you take care of that before you take care of anything else.
That's why I'm
anything. So don't be foolish. Don't be foolish. I mean, don't say stupid things to me, because if you say stupid things to me, it presupposes that I'm stupid. And I don't like people to think I'm stupid. Old, maybe. Stupid, never.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Don't care.
This is proof, Your Honor.
Don't care.
This is why I came to you, because I know you're very fair. And
I am very fair and very short-tempered.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Karen Holmson claims ex-boyfriend Carrie Miles owes for damage to her car and for the cost of blood tests after he had an affair with a prostitute. Carrie is countersuing for defamation of character.
All right. Mr. Miles, I'm going to hear from you, sir. Let's start with the car.
Okay, I did not key her car.
Fine, let's talk about what you did to her car.
Okay, I did take it to the car wash.
When you were drunk?
No, I wasn't drunk.
What'd you take it to the car wash for, sir?
Because she wanted it to be washed.
Yeah.
So I had it washed for her, brought it back, left it at her house. I took off, went back home. She calls me up about 3 or 4 days later and says that she was out driving and the sunroof come off and that I broke the sunroof. I can't prove that I did or I didn't. I took responsibility. I took it down to the Porsche dealer. I paid $800 to have it fixed, and that was the end of the car situation. I would never touch that car because of that.
What about the medical test?
I did agree to have an AIDS test.
Stop playing with your papers. I can't hear him.
And when it finally came to an end, yes, it was a very bad situation. So yeah, she sent a bill. I have one bill here for $558, and then now she's saying it's $800 and something. No, it was not. I agreed. I paid $200 at the clinic when we went there for the test. Yes, I did agree for that. I did pay that, and that was that.
Would you ask him if this is his signature, please?
No, it is not. Or wait, yes, it is.
Ah. Would you read what that says?
It says, I, Carrie Stephen Miles, will pay Corinne $350 on Friday 18th and $25 and take you to the doctor on Tuesday the 22nd.
So did you give her $350?
Yes, I did.
Show me.
I don't have a receipt for it, Your Honor.
Well, show me a check.
I don't have a check for it.
So? Is this the note that he signed for you?
Yes, Your Honor. There's also another one stating that he would pay for all of the car and all of the lab.
Well, I don't have a note for that.
Is that okay that I reach in here now that he's not?
Now
speaking?
you can do that.
Okay, thank you very much. Here's this, and here's also, oh, gosh, okay, here also is for the car damages. Would you like to see that?
Sure, that note.
Could I give you a bailiff this, ma'am?
No. It's your signature, right?
Yes, it is.
Well, would you explain all that to me, sir?
Yes. At that time, when this was all coming to an end,
Yeah.
I did write that.
Why? It says here
Because
that you promised to pay her $430 for the damages to the car, $50 because something that you owed her, for doctor bills for a full exam and lab work done, and will pay $400 and no cents for rent before July 1st, 2001. And then you signed it.
Okay, at that time, I signed it to get her out of my life because of the things she has been caused in my life. She sent flyers all through my work.
Just a minute. You're coming to your counterclaim, sir. I'm going to get to your counterclaim in a second. You signed these IOUs, right?
Yes.
You're stuck with them.
Okay.
Just show that to me at the beginning. I didn't have to listen to all this nonsense.
Your Honor, this is my car. This is for the car. My estimate is $6,200.
I don't care what the estimate is. $430 is what I have a note for. Period. Period. End of discussion.
But,
End of discussion.
this is proof, Your Honor. If you would read this further, because they fixed the car, they sent it back. It was malfunctioning. They did further research on it. They saw that he smashed it, so they had to get a whole new sunroof. And here's all the repeats. It's all in
Listen
the.
to me. Don't care. Don't care. This is what.
It's my life and my car.
Then you should have pursued your remedy sooner. This is what you have a note for.
This is why I came to you, because I know you're very fair. And
I am very fair
like
and very short-tempered. Now, let's get to your counterclaim. Your counterclaim says that because she was very angry with you, put some flyers up around town that caused you a great deal of stress and discomfort.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have one of those flyers?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to take a look at it. Listen, there's not quiet.
And I also have a witness that was present at my work when they were put all through my work at a bar that I was at.
Just a second. Now, this is a very, very nasty flyer. Did you do this flyer?
No, I did not, Your Honor.
Well, it is certainly nasty.
I bet he did it himself.
What?
He probably did it for himself.
Why would you say that? Have you seen them?
I don't know, because he's already told me that I did this and that, and I haven't.
Listen to me. I'm asking you a question. Did you or did you not?
No, I did not.
Put up a flyer of him?
No, I did not.
Okay. You have a witness that you say saw her put this flyer around?
No, that's seen the flyers at my work.
But didn't see her?
Didn't see her, no. It was done early morning when we were all inside working.
What proof do you have, sir, that she did it?
I have a letter that matches her handwriting there, and I also have, I know where that picture came from that she cut out and put on those. That picture was taken when we were out to dinner one night at a photo booth right by the restaurant we went to. And then she pasted my face onto those.
Where did this note come from?
She sent it to my house.
On the back of the bill from the doctor.
Right, because that's a note she sent to my house. And I also have a letter from my work stating that the flyers were put up all around my work.
Just a minute. You put these up.
No, I did not, ma'am.
You sure you did?
No, I did not.
I think you did.
I know that I didn't.
I think you did.
Your Honor, I also have a letter from my work stating that they were posted all throughout
Let me see.
my job.
Let me see it. No, I think you did.
Could I look at could I look at what I supposedly did, Your Honor, please?
Sure can.
That is absolutely not my writing. That is absolutely not my writing.
Well, what about
Without
the
benefit of a doubt.
Just a second. What about the letter? Is that your writing?
Oh, the letter is most definitely my
It's the
writing.
same writing.
No, it is not.
Can I please have that back?
That is not, and I did not do that. The police called me up, and I was at home sleeping. I got a phone call from the Garden Grove Police Department in the morning, woke me up.
Okay.
I did not do that, and that is a lie, and I am not a liar.
Whether you did it or whether you caused it to be done, madam, I believe it is my responsibility to weigh by a preponderance of the evidence whether I believe that he has sustained his burden on his counterclaim. I believe that he has.
That is not my writing, and if you want to see me, that is not my writing.
Your Honor.
Go ahead.
I also have a witness. He's a fellow co-worker that was a witness that I had dropped my keys into the ocean. She had a set of my keys and would not give them back until I gave her money. That's one of the reasons I signed that thing. She still wouldn't give me back my keys.
I don't care why you signed it. You signed it.
You're correct.
Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
You signed it. Now, what were the ramifications of having these things posted around your job?
A lot of humor and a lot of humiliation.
Yeah, I think so.
They were around my work. They were at the local bar that I go to, and they were around my neighborhood. I work with 650 people, and probably half of them are women. So yes, it was
not nice.
Not
Absolutely
nice.
not nice.
They had to pull people out of doing their job to go pick up these flyers all over the parking lot. Yeah, I almost lost my job. They were wondering what was going to happen next. They called me up to the front office, wondering should they get a security guard?
Listen.
What's up next?
Okay. You were in a relationship with this lady. It's clear to me you didn't do the right thing.
For 3 months, yes, I was.
You were in a relationship and didn't do the right thing.
Right.
Right?
Correct.
So there are certain things that could happen to you as a result of that. Right? You made her really, really mad. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Really angry. As a result of that being really angry, she retaliated and did this. She's going to pay for that because as far as I'm concerned, I would have awarded her almost $1,800 on her claim. She's going to get nothing on her claim. She's going to get nothing on her claim. Because if the situation were reversed and you put these signs up around about her, and just because you're a guy and she's the gal doesn't mean that it's any less obnoxious, any less defamatory, any less vulgar.
I didn't do it.
Yes, you
This
did.
is my number.
Judgment on the counterclaim in the amount of $2,500.
Look at when you please check the numbers. These are my handwriting in figures. Look at how different they are. Look at that is my letter, but the poster's not. These are my figures. There is a phone number on there. Do they match my writing of the totals here? So, ma'am, please look at this because this is wrong.
Sure.
And
I will.
swear
Listen.
to God,
My mind is open.
I
will
did
look.
not do that. I would
My
not
mind
do
is
that.
open.
No, I have children and grandchildren, Your Honor, and I would not put that up. No way, no way. There's children that would have seen that. That is not right, and I swear to God I did not do that. I swear to God I did not do that, and they're not even close. I know that's not my writing.
All right. You have opportunity and inclination. You also have a picture of him. You also had a motive to do it because you were really, really angry.
It's not my writing, and that is my writing. That picture, I don't even know. I didn't even really look at the picture. I was looking at the handwriting.
Take a look at the picture.
And I don't even have a picture of him because he took them all and ripped them all up. He is the one that had the picture. And if I wouldn't know better, he took the thing because that is not my writing. I mean, I wish you would call somebody in here to see the signatures because the numbers, I swear, if you look at mine on where it says grand total, do you see the numbers? They're not even close to that.
I see the grand total.
It's not the same, and it's not fair because I didn't do that.
Listen to me. You may not be satisfied. I'm satisfied.
Well, can't you see for your own eyes that it doesn't
I
match?
see.
They don't match. It's not my writing.
Your problem
it's
is...
not my writing.
Madam, I'm telling you, I believe that you were so angry for a very good reason that you put up these flyers, and whether you wrote it or whether you had a friend write it or somebody else wrote it, this is what you did. And I'm looking, I'm reading. Do you want me to read what you wrote on this?
To say that I did
Do you want me to read what you wrote on this?
That's scandalous. I think he had those made just to do what he's doing right now. That's what I believe.
Don't make this uglier than you.
But I didn't do it. I
Live
didn't
with you.
do it.
No, this is what you wrote.
Oh, I wrote that, Your Honor.
Oh, yeah, well, that's what I'm reading, madam.
Upset? Are you out of your mind? Yes, I'm upset. But I would never go to the fire department. I never did that. I swear to God.
I believe you did.
No,
and I'm not going to read this because this is too sick.
Because that's just right up
you have
his
my
alley.
verdict. Do you understand what the verdict is?
Yes.
Good. Judgment on the counterclaim in the amount of $2,500. Plaintiff gets absolutely nothing. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I don't understand the verdict. I think that she needs a new pair of glasses.
I'm happy with the judgment. I think it was fair and just.
I think that she accused me of something I know without a benefit of a doubt I did not do.
I'd do anything to get out of this relationship.
I think it's out of control.
I never lived with her, for one thing.
It's absurd.
She needs money.
Look at all the things that he had done to me. He had to do something because he knew he owed me that money.
For the nightmare I went through, that was nothing.
I don't care about this man, but I do care about the bills he left with me and the financial status and all the pain and suffering and the lies and the car damage and everything.
Not getting my keys back, having my car all rekeyed.
Of course he would make those flyers. They'd be right up his alley, pornographic things like that.
No, I didn't. I have proof from my work, bars. I mean, there's 1,000 people that seen that flyer.
The doctor bills I still have to return. And you know what? He still owes me for all of that because he went out with a prostitute. That's why. That's what kind of punk he is.
Don't break the law.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Smith versus Smith. Step forward, please.
26-year-old cosmetologist Crystal Smith is suing her aunt, daycare provider Veronica Smith, for the value of a 3-wheel ice cream bike. Veronica says the bike was stolen from her garage. She has a countersuit for unpaid rent and carpet cleaning fees.
Miss Smith, the defendant is your aunt.
Yes.
And it is your claim that she owes you for some sort of a bicycle that you were storing in her house that was stolen.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
Me and my auntie, Veronica, we had made up agreement for us to sell candy out of her garage. Me and my husband, we supplied candy, snowballs, any kind of snacks.
So this bicycle was not a bicycle that you ride on, it was...
It was like a 3-wheeler, a tracker.
Have a picture of it?
I have not a photo picture, but I went on the internet and went online and got on their site. I have internet.
What one looks like,
Yes.
so that I have some idea of what it looks like. Okay, let me see it, please.
That's a model like it. The difference in that model.
Okay, so it's a bicycle that has it's a bicycle but has this little thing on top.
With the cooler system in the back with the umbrella.
And this is what you kept in her garage?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
She said she took it out of the garage. She forgot about the bike, left it out, and it came up stolen.
When was it stolen?
It was stolen on a Saturday night.
Do you know what happened?
It was stolen on Saturday night, so that particular night that we was in my garage, me and my family, we were playing some cards that night. So the bike was too big, so I didn't like no smoking in my house, so we was out there. And so I put the bike between my garage door and my car. It was in between. So some between Saturday night and Sunday, the bike got stolen. So in the first place, I did not give Krista Smith a permission to bring any bike to my house for any reason.
How long had it had the bike?
The bike had been there for...
Let me finish.
Okay.
How long had the bike been there before it was stolen?
The bike was been there for like 2 months. At the time that I told Krista for about 2 months to come and get her belongings out of my house. I kept saying, get the bike out of my house, get your stuff out of my house.
Did your aunt ever say to you, come and get your stuff out of the garage and house?
We had a get-together over one of my other auntie's house, my Aunt Mary. That night she mentioned, she said, I've been meaning to call you. I wanted to tell you to come and get the rest of the stuff out the garage. I said, I'm going to get a U-Haul, not this weekend, but next weekend, and I'll be over there to get the rest of the stuff that was there, because it was more than just the bike actually in the garage.
What was all your stuff doing in her garage?
We had a store set up in the back of her garage.
Why?
Shh.
Why?
We had started a business, and we had rented out an area that we were leasing. In the lease, the contract had got canceled. So in between time, I had called up my Aunt Veronica, and we had talked on the phone. Before we had actually opened up the store, she said we can come and store my belongings that I had there at her house.
How many times did your aunt tell you to get the stuff out of her garage?
Once.
When? Give me the date.
I don't know the exact date, because it was a weekend. We was over my Aunt Mary's house.
Do you know the date?
July 1st.
And when was the bike stolen?
The bike was stolen in August. August the 12th, 13th, whatever.
Okay.
And that was the agreement was on. They would pay me $75 a week for selling the candy out of the garage. They never did pay me any money but once. They gave me $50 once. So after that, they would start bringing stuff to my house, bicycles, radios, and TVs and stuff. And as I said, hey, wait, hold up. So I couldn't got nowhere to put my stuff in my own house, in my garage and stuff. You guys got to, come get your stuff. They never could come get their stuff out of my garage. And after I tried to get in touch with Krista about the bike being stolen, for 2 weeks later, that's when she called me. And she called me on the phone, and then they started making threats against me, telling me they're going to burn my house down.
When did you make the agreement with her about renting the space to sell the candy?
Around in June.
And the bike was stolen in August.
Right.
So that they had your permission, at least your niece had your permission, to keep the bike in your garage.
No, Anna. She had only permission to sell candy, not bring bikes and stuff.
I'm not talking about bikes. I'm talking about this bike. This was the one that was stolen, right?
Right. That's what was
stolen.
stolen.
So you knew that this was the one she was going to sell the candy from.
But I didn't know that she was going to... She didn't ask me to bring no bikes or anything down to my house.
Ms. Smith, you're not paying attention to me. Maybe you're not following me. The law says that if you allow someone to store something in your garage, you want to speak. I want you to open your mind, start receiving. Don't be sending out. Receive what I'm saying, because it's something that you don't know. If you say to her, you can sell candy out of my garage and keep this in my garage, or even if you don't have an agreement with her for money, but you say, all right, you want to store it in my garage? I'll let you store it in my garage. And then at some point you say, listen, you got to come get your stuff out. You are still in a position where you have to exercise some ordinary care over her property. But what you did was you put this bike outside and then forgot about it. But for the fact that you brought it outside and forgot to bring it inside, it would have been inside. There was nothing else taken from the garage, right?
No.
So this... you're responsible for.
But Honor, I did not give her permission to bring any bikes or anything down to my house.
Yes, you did, because you just told me, and you have a counterclaim. In addition to that, the reason I know that you did, because you have a counterclaim for rent.
I have a
You
counterclaim for...
Shh. You're not receiving. You have a counterclaim for rent, and in your counterclaim you said you had an agreement with your niece to sell candy out of your garage and that they were going to pay you $75 a week starting June 1st.
Yes,
You also said that they damaged your carpet.
right.
I have something
No.
to add.
When?
The mess was not made because we were not on carpet. The carpet is only upstairs in the dining room. In the basement is that concrete flooring. In the garage, it's the same thing.
Who purchased this candy wagon? Who
Me and
purchased
my
it?
husband went together and purchased.
Let me see when this piece of equipment was purchased.
Here's the receipts.
You paid $2,500 for this thing?
Yes.
Now you have a store. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. When did you stop selling candy?
I'll say the week of the 4th of July.
So why didn't you get the bike out of her house until August?
Officially, we were still open for business. She did not tell us to.
That's not what I asked you. Why didn't you get the bike out when you stopped using it for business?
The week of the 4th, we could not sell any candy out of her premises because she said she was going to be out of town and we could not be there.
Fine, so that's out of town. When did she come back into town?
That following week, she was only
Why didn't you start to sell your candy again?
relocated with a new place of business.
So why didn't you get the bike out of her garage?
Because the candy and the bike and everything that we own were still stored in the garage as well.
How much did you pay her for the storage?
The storage was supposed to be $50.
How much did you pay her for the storage?
We did not have a storage fee set up. All we had set up was a weekly fee for the candy.
How much did you pay her?
The agreement was $50 a week. It was not $75 a week.
Fine. How much did you pay her?
I paid her $50.
You didn't pay for 3 weeks in June, nothing in July, and nothing till
The whole
mid-August.
2 months that we were there, we didn't sell candy the whole 2 months.
Why should she take care of your stuff? She told you to move your stuff in July.
The bike got stolen between the 27th of July and the first week of August.
When was the bike stolen?
Like 20. August
Well,
20.
2 seconds ago you told me it was the 15th.
It was stolen in August. It was
August
stolen
12th.
in August.
It was stolen the last week
No,
of
it was
July
stolen
and the
in
first
August.
week of August.
Show me. How do you know?
The 23rd of August is my brother's birthday.
Oh, please, give me a break. Listen, you left this thing here. It was her fault. It was her fault that this got stolen because she took it and she put it outside and she forgot to bring it back. You show a bill for $2,500.
Yes.
You expect her to pay you $2,500 for this?
I have a receipt.
No way in this earth is she going to pay you $2,500. You took advantage of her. You took advantage of her good nature. You were storing your stuff there. She had to, in order to accommodate herself and her friends playing cards, move your stuff around. She told you to move it. You said, I don't have to move it. I'll move it when I get good and ready.
No, I did not.
Well, you did not. I'm going to tell you something. She has some responsibility. But she has this much responsibility, and you have this much responsibility. She has $200 worth responsibility. You have the rest. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $200. Now, let's get to your carpet cleaning. Forget it. Let's get to your rent. Forget it. Do you understand? Forget it. Don't do any more favors, and don't let any more of your relatives store stuff in your property, because ultimately, if something happens, they're going to come looking for you for money. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I still love her. We're still family. I'm still going to come over. She still can come over. It's just something that, you have to do. Take care of business. It's business.
She didn't come back. I cleaned her carpet. I cleaned my house up and everything. And she had stuff all over.
It's a big misunderstanding about the mess. There was no mess left on my behalf or the candy that was being sold at her house.
She didn't respect me what I was telling her. And so it had come to this.
I love her still. It's my girl. It's my boo.
22-year-old electrician Ryan Barnello is suing 23-year-old personal trainer Jerry Dunn for damaging his truck during a parking lot brawl.
Order. Yeah, this is case number 375 on the calendar in the matter of Barnello versus Dunn. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Don't aggravate me. I have a bad throat today. Mr. Barnello.
Yes.
It's your claim that the defendant kicked your truck in a parking lot of a bar. He was a little drunk. Mr. Dunn says that he was, in fact, drunk. right?
Yes.
And he may have hit you, but he didn't kick your car. So let me hear it from the top. Date, time, place.
September 20th at 1 a.m. Myself and my friends were leaving the club. Jerry started elbowing one of my friends as we were leaving, and they had exchanged words. It escalated to the parking lot where they exchanged more words, and the police department broke it up.
So the police were there.
The police were there in the parking lot, yes.
Had you known him before?
No, I've never met him or seen him before.
Go ahead.
And we were leaving. I was leaving in my truck by myself. My friends were walking along my truck. They were pretty angry at the time.
What do you mean they were walking along the truck?
They wouldn't get in my vehicle because they were pretty fumed because they had gotten to words with Jerry in the parking lot.
And they're walking alongside of your truck?
One of my friends was walking along the side of my truck.
Go ahead.
And I actually was parked two cars away from Jerry's vehicle and his friend, Chris, which was also the one that kicked my truck in. And we were pulling away, and I was trying to get my friend in the vehicle, and he was pretty heated. He was going to walk home, and I had the windows down. I heard them exchanging words out of their vehicle to my friend that was walking. And Jerry proceeded to get out of his truck with his friend Chris, and I got out of my vehicle to get my friend to get leave, get in my truck, let's leave, We've already been warned once by the police. My friend wouldn't get in my vehicle with me, so I got back in my truck. As soon as I got back in my truck, Chris and Jerry Dunn ran up to my truck and started kicking my truck in as I was sitting in the driver's seat staring at him.
Where did he kick your truck?
He kicked my truck in the door and the extended cab of the truck. I have pictures.
Can I see the pictures, please? All right, Chair. Let's hear from you.
Well, we got to the nightclub approximately 10 o'clock that evening.
So you've been drinking for 3 hours?
Approximately, yes. We were leaving the nightclub, me and a friend of mine and our two girlfriends, and another friend of ours that was walking with us to our cars had a confrontation, I guess, with one of his friends. It wasn't me, okay? And after they had had words, the cops had basically came over and said, you guys stop it or whatever, because it was just words. No one had physically done anything yet. At that time, we get in our cars. I get in the back seat. We're leaving the club. We're still in the parking lot. We haven't left yet. And as we're pulling out of the parking lot, this gentleman basically cuts us off in his truck. He's leaving the parking lot and pulls right in front of our car, saying stuff to us outside of his window, still sitting inside of his truck.
He is?
Yes. His friends, like he said, were all outside. There was a bunch, the whole club was leaving at this time. So there was tons of people in the parking lot. And I guess it was, I don't know how many of his friends, 4 or 5 guys or so, were outside the truck. At that time, the driver of the vehicle that I was in steps out of the vehicle and approaches his truck. As they are saying words to each other, I get out of the truck myself, and I'm coming around the truck, and there's tons of people at that time around both of our cars. And everyone's yelling, screaming, saying stuff to each other. At that point, everyone starts fighting. I don't know if it was him or one of his friends that I had actually gotten a physical confrontation with, but we ended up getting arrested that night. Me and the driver of the vehicle that I was in.
What were you arrested for?
Well, initially we were being arrested, and the cop says he's pressing charges on you guys for, hitting him or whatever, hitting his friend. And
you can't press charges for hitting his friend.
No, that's not correct.
So anyways, this is what the cop says to me.
What were you arrested for, sir?
Well, right here he tells me it was drunk in public.
What happened with that case?
I went to jail that night, and they gave me this piece of paper, and it was basically a failure to appear for another traffic stop that I had had. They never actually arrested me for drunk in public either, or vandalizing his car or anything.
They gave you a desk appearance ticket. You were supposed to appear there on the 13th of November. What happened?
I went and appeared, and all I had to do was pay for a traffic violation that I had.
You have a police report?
I do not have a police report because I did not press charges for vandalism. And for one reason only, that the night they both agreed in front of the officers to pay me for the damages to my vehicle, and they offered me $1,000 cash if I was to come to their house that night. And the officers said there will be no money exchanged in our presence, that this matter will have to be taken somewhere else. And so I asked the officer for any type of information of showing of the incident, and he said he could not give me anything because I didn't press charges. And the reason why I didn't press charges is because they agreed to pay me when they were in the back of the car.
Who's they?
Jerry and Chris.
Did Chris pay you?
Chris has paid me his half of the...
When did Chris pay you?
I believe about 3 weeks ago.
How much did he pay you?
He paid me $2,300.
You the girlfriend? Step up. Tell me your name.
My name's Katie.
Katie what?
Katie Rainier.
You were there that night?
Yes, I was.
Were you drunk or sober?
I was sober.
I just want you to think about the moment. This is your boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
He's in the back of a police car. Do you remember that?
Yes.
How many people were in the back of the police car?
2. Him and
Who?
Chris.
Who?
Jerry and Chris.
Anybody else taken into custody that night?
No.
Now, during the time that they were in the back of the police car, Katie, did you see the plaintiff?
Yes.
Did you see the plaintiff talking to a police officer?
Yes.
Did there come a time when the police officer let your boyfriend and Chris out of the back of the car?
Not to my knowledge, no.
So they took him away?
Yes.
Did they take you away that evening, sir?
Yes.
Where did they take you?
To Sacramento County Jail.
What about Chris?
Him too, yes.
Is it your testimony that after you had a conversation with the officer let him out of the car?
No, he didn't let him out of the car.
Oh. Well, that's what I thought.
The door was open.
Yeah.
And I was standing right by the door talking to them, and they were begging me the whole time, don't press charges, don't press charges.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Well, why do you think that Chris only paid half?
I have no idea.
Is it possible that it's because what he's telling me is accurate, that the two of you agreed to pay for the damage to his truck?
No.
I think so.
And later today,
Can I see a withdrawal from your bank for $240?
I don't have that. I got it from the ATM.
Well, if you got it from the ATM, you would have a record of that, sir.
Well, they give you the
Listen to
option
me.
of
You
whether
get
you
it?
can have it printed out or not printed out. And
Mr. Doherty, are you trying to dance around me, sir?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ryan Barnello says during an argument in a nightclub parking lot, his fellow clubgoer Jerry Dunn damaged his truck. Jerry denies ever touching the vehicle.
Why don't you have a seat? Where is your friend Chris?
He is at home, actually. He's back home.
As far as you know, Chris paid him $2,300?
Yes.
Why?
Because he kicked his vehicle and I didn't.
How much was the damage to the vehicle?
The estimate, I've had 2. One for $4,286 and one for $4,412.
Well, why do you think that Chris only paid half?
I have no idea.
I have no idea.
No.
Is it possible that it's because what he's telling me is accurate, that the two of you agreed to pay for the damage to his truck?
No.
No?
No.
I think so. And I think that if I were to call Chris, that's exactly what he would tell me, that he agreed to pay for half the damage and you were going to pay for half the damage to the truck. That's what I think. And since I'm the one who's in charge of thinking here, I'm entering a judgment in the amount of $2,200. That's all. Goodbye.
Lawyers are excused. You may step out.
The judgment was correct. You know, he did kick my truck in, and he's paying for it.
Next time I won't beat anybody up outside of a nightclub.
He never touched me that night, so I don't know what he's talking about.
I guess when you finish something instead of start it, you're the one who actually gets in trouble.
And now the next case.
Parties on Vanetta versus Gervitz. Step forward, please.
Bar manager Linda Van Natta is suing her former friend, cashier Marion Gervitz, for vet bills. Marion is countersuing, also for vet bills.
Miss Vanetta, I'm going to very succinctly give you a short scenario of the complaint that I read, yours. According to you, you sold the defendant 2 Persian cats. Mm-hmm. Then you got information somehow that they were being neglected. At the time, according to you, the defendant had approximately 17 cats. You went over there, you picked up the 2 cats. You took them back to your house. You did that with her permission.
Yes.
And then she wanted them back, and you said you can't have them back. Ultimately, you were forced to give the cats back to her. And you want her to pay the vet bills that you incurred taking care of the cats.
Yes.
So that's what your lawsuit is about.
Yes.
You have a cross complaint.
Yes, ma'am.
You say that when the cats were returned to you, they were returned sick, and you had to take them to the vet.
Yes, ma'am.
What was wrong with them when they were returned to you?
My cats were returned to me. They had ringworm, which is like a fungus.
I know what ringworm is.
Okay. None of my cats have ever had ringworm. We have
How
14
many cats do you have?
We have 14.
Are you telling me you had 14 cats and none of your cats have ever had ringworm?
No, ma'am.
You have the 2 Persians back now?
I have the 2 Persians back, and they were underweight when I got them back.
Oh, I'd like
She
to
had
see,
colds.
I'd like to see the vet report.
Yes, ma'am.
Indicating.
I also have a letter where Linda sent to my husband accusing me of having extramarital affairs. And I just don't think it has anything to do with the case. She's slandering me.
I just would like to see, please, the vet bills and the report from the vet when you got the cats back.
Okay, this is a report that the vet faxed to the Humane Society.
When were the cats returned to her?
November.
November what?
Around the 15th, I believe.
November 15.
I believe so.
Well, according to the veterinarian, both cats had good body weight. Both cats had ringworm lesion. One cat had an ear infection, one cat had a right eye infection. And this indicates that both cats had several problems that required medical attention. Can you tell me how this is possible?
These cats were very sick when I took them back. I've been treating them from the vet from August until the end of October, that I've taken the cats to the vets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times.
Did you tell her when you went to pick up the cats that it was your intention to keep them?
No, I told her I would keep the cats until she would get her act together. The house was filthy. She had cat feces all over the house.
Linda, your house has not been any better.
She had to shovel cat feces from the downstairs.
You had rust in your bathtub,
place was
honey.
supposed to be getting condemned.
Listen to me. Where do you think you are?
I'm sorry.
Where do you think you are?
I'm
Then
sorry.
don't say but.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Go ahead.
And with the 17 cats in the house, I knew that they were sick when I took them, and I did ask her about the condition of the cats, especially when I seen the bloody stool. She said that was not a problem, that she would cover the vet bills. So, and
Did you say that to her?
I told her if she took the cat to the vet, that I would pay the bill, but she refused to return the cats to me.
You did tell her you would cover the vet bills.
I would cover the vet bill, but
Good,
she,
let me see.
she refused to allow me to have my cats back or see them. She was going to euthanize them because of diarrhea.
Because of what?
Because of diarrhea. She was going to have the cats euthanized.
that is a parasite that the cats had. They eat out the inner lining of the intestine. I was never going to have them euthanized.
That's what you told me, Linda.
That's why I was having them treated, so that they would cure the giardia. The vet told me
They had giardia.
I have got a letter.
Why do you need 14 or 16 cats?
I do animal rescue.
Yeah.
And I have 7 papered cats, and I have 7 mutts, because I feel that anyone who sells cats should have as many mutt cats that need homes as they do purebred cats.
They were sick before they went.
No, ma'am, they were not sick.
Sure they were.
No, they were not sick,
Sure
ma'am.
they were. You want to know why I know they were sick? Because you said if you take them to the vet because they had blood in their stool, I will pay the bill. If you would
Casper
not...
had diarrhea because of all the stress.
Give me a break. Give me a break. Give me a break. Look, you spent a lot of money, Miss Van Atta, and I believe you spent a lot of money at the vet after a period of time that she told you, I want my cats back. That's your responsibility. The only question that I have in my mind is whether or not you are responsible for any of the vet bills that she had after she got her cats back. Because she says the cats came back to her sick. Now, the cats were not in your possession because you gave them to a third person. Is that correct?
Correct.
Well, why did you do...
Excuse me. She sold them.
I'm not speaking to you. Who did you give them to?
I gave them to a lady. I ran an ad to get rid of some of my cats.
How long were the cats with her?
3 to 4 weeks before she actually got them back.
All right, well, unfortunately, you are responsible for her vet bills.
That I am responsible?
Yeah, you are. You are. I know you're trying to do a good deed. $405. Judgment on the counterclaim for the defendant. That's all.
Parties are
Thank you.
excused. You may step out.
This lady has got a mental problem. She stuck a cat in a freezer for 6 months because she couldn't stand to get rid of it.
We kept it in the freezer for a few months until the ground thawed and we buried it.
She can't take care of her house. She can't take care of the cats. Somebody needs to step in and do something about this.
I have 14 cats and 12 birds, and they are all healthy and receive vet care when necessary.
If one of them has got Giardia, so do the rest of them, the birds, the people, the cats are running the neighborhood. It's a big health issue.
She's just got to be in everybody's business, and she always thinks she's right, and she can say whatever she wants about me. God knows the truth, and so do I.
Real estate broker Noreen Falk is suing account executive Russell Craig for the cost to fix her vehicle. Noreen says Russell's daughter, 12-year-old Kaylee, damaged her car.
Order. All rise. This is case number 450 on the calendar in the matter of Falk versus Craig. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Ms. Falk, it is your claim that the defendant's daughter somehow got behind the wheel of a car that belonged to you while it was in a garage, drove it through the garage door, damaging the car. You want the defendant to be responsible for repairing the car, which is about $600. The defendant says that his daughter is not responsible and did not drive the car and was not responsible for the damage. You weren't there.
No, ma'am.
Your daughter was there.
That's correct.
So why don't you step up? Tell me your first name.
Kaylee.
All right, Ms. Falk, where was your car?
My car was parked in my sister's private garage in Houston, Texas.
What was it doing there?
It was awaiting transport. My sister and niece moved down to El Paso, Texas, and we left the car there for my movers to pick it up at a later date. They were, at that time, taking my sister's car back.
It's actually within a garage?
Yes, ma'am. And I have pictures of that.
Can I see it?
Yes. That's the new garage he replaced.
The new door?
Yes, ma'am.
Who replaced the door?
Mr. Craig.
Good for you. How much did that cost you?
$420.
All right, Kaylee. You want to tell me how you got possession of this car?
My friend and I, Tammy, were going to her house.
Going to whose house?
Tammy's. And we saw these two guys, and they were emptying out the garage. And we went to go see, and they told us about the car being in there and how it had the keys in the ignition, and they didn't know what to do with the car. And
who were the two guys?
One said that he was his gardener, and the other said that he didn't say who he was.
Go ahead.
And they told us about everything, and so Tammy wanted to go see the car, and so we went in there, and as we were leaving, the guys gave us 2 scooters because they said that they were going to just take the stuff. They said something like, give it away or something like that. And then we left, and then Tammy wanted to go back, and so we went back, and she said that she wanted to go inside the car, and so we went inside the car, and she was in the driver's seat, and I was just in the passenger seat, and she turned on the car. And
how'd she get into the garage?
There's a door.
So you went in a door?
Mm-hmm.
So she turned on the car. Go ahead.
And she put it in reverse, and it jumped back and hit the garage.
Yeah.
That's all.
How old are you?
12.
So let's go back a little bit. You saw 2 men who were stealing property from this garage, is that right?
Yes.
And the 2 men who were stealing property from the garage told you that they were giving you 2 scooters, which you knew were stolen, is that right?
No.
You had to know they were stolen because you knew the 2 men were stealing property.
They said that Miss Tipton had called them.
Yeah. So that you knew when you took the 2 scooters. Now, where did you bring the scooters, by the way? Did you bring them to your house?
I brought one to my house, and Tammy took one.
You live there with your father?
My mom.
What did you tell your mother about where you got the scooter?
That this guy was packing away the stuff, and he gave it to us. And she said, okay.
When you went back there, according to you, with your friend Tammy, you knew you had no permission to go into the garage, isn't that right? You have to answer me. Shouldn't shake your head in court.
Yes, ma'am.
So you were committing a crime when you went in there, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you got into the car, you knew you had no permission to be in that car, isn't that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And according to you, it was Tammy who drove the car.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you went into the garage the first time with the men, you had the key to the car.
No, ma'am.
Did you ever have the key to the car?
Yes, ma'am. After Tammy had put it on my keychain.
When did Tammy put it on your keychain?
The second time that we were there.
Before or after she crashed the car? Before or after she crashed the car?
After.
Tell me about after. She crashed the car, and did you get frightened?
Yes.
What did you do?
I told her, Tammy, we better leave. We had no business to be here.
And you got out of the car?
Yes.
Tell me about how the key got on your key ring.
She put it on there.
You know what happens when you fib? Your nose gets longer. Doesn't make sense. Now, a lot of things make sense. Could possibly happen. You could have gone in there and it would have been just as you told me. That Tammy got behind the wheel of the car, Tammy drove the car, all of a sudden it crashes into the door, damages the door, but then you jump out of the car and you leave fast. You don't wait for Tammy to take the key out of the ignition, put it on your key ring. That doesn't make sense. Does that make sense to you, sir? No, of course not. Okay. Have you called Tammy, sir?
Yes, I have.
So, you sue Tammy. That's your job. If you feel as if your daughter is only partially responsible, you sue Tammy.
Your Honor, I feel like she's more responsible.
Well,
my defense is that there was no damage to the vehicle.
I've got pictures.
I requested pictures and never got any pictures.
You mean you crash a car into a garage door with sufficient force for you to replace the garage door, and you don't think there's any damage to the car?
I saw the car.
Your Honor, my niece is back in Houston again, and these two are in the same class at school, and she has admitted all this to my niece after I filed this lawsuit.
Really?
Yes.
Where's your niece?
Right here, Madeline.
You're Madeline?
Yes, ma'am.
You go to school together?
Yes.
Well, tell me about the conversation you had with this young lady.
Well, we usually talk at lunch because you're not allowed to talk in class. So she said they pulled off the top of the car, but they said there was no damage. But
they said there was no damage.
Kaylee said there was no damage to the car. So,
what else did she say?
She said they were in there they were in there twice over a period of 2 days.
Doing what?
Listening to the radio.
Would you show the defendant's father pictures of the car? Can I have your estimates, please?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you get the top off the car, Kaylee?
Tammy read the instructions.
So it was all Tammy. What were you doing when she was reading the instructions?
I was taking it off.
You were taking it off?
Yes.
Listen, sir, consider yourself very lucky. It's your daughter's fault. If you feel as if Tammy is partially responsible, I suggest that you sue Tammy and her mother. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $650. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
There's consequences when you do something wrong.
She was highly upset.
The father, I mean, that was a ridiculous story. How could he believe it?
She told me that she didn't do it, and finally the next day she told me that, yeah, we did it.
She made a mistake. She's sorry. It's over with.
I don't think I should have been in the garage.
Take it to Judge Judy.
20-year-old cook Kevin Kropidlowski is suing his ex-girlfriend, 18-year-old waitress Christabel White, for an unpaid loan to buy a car. Christabel says the money was an attempt to buy her love.
Order. Come to order. All rise. Now, this is case number 489 on the calendar in the matter of Kropidlowski versus White. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks have seats.
Mr. Kropidlowski, this is the former girlfriend.
Yes.
And according to you, you made a loan to her in order to allow her to purchase a car.
Yes.
You did that a year ago,
Yes, ma'am.
and she made some payments to you, and then you broke up and she stopped making payments altogether. You want the balance of the loan.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. White said you purchased a car for her. It was a gift. Tell me the circumstances surrounding you purchasing this car.
We had been dating for quite a period of time. I'd say about 7-8 months, somewhere around there. And her family was going through a bunch of problems at the time. They had been, kicked out of their apartments, or her mom lost her job, and she came to me asking me to help her buy a car because her aunt and nobody else would actually help her do it because they just couldn't do it for her.
Where did you have this money?
I had to take out a personal loan for it.
Did you discuss the fact that you were taking out a personal loan in order to help her with her?
Yes. The car was $3,240, and I ended up taking out a personal loan for $3,000, which is the limit that you can take out in Wisconsin.
And how much were the monthly payments?
$102.44.
How many payments did she make?
She made 5 payments.
When did she stop making the payments?
She stopped making the payments after she tried vandalizing my car. I have a police report that
Can I see that, please?
she came over at 1 o'clock in the morning, and
If you call looking at your car vandalism.
Don't speak.
she came over at 1 o'clock in the morning and with a couple of her friends, and I was just going to bed at the time, and I saw her pull up with her lights turned off, and I looked out the window, and it was the car that I had bought for her.
Why would she come over and try to vandalize your car?
I have no clue.
Had you broken up at that time?
The 2 weeks before, or a week and a half beforehand, we got in this big discussion because she was making payments, but the last 2 payments were late, and I had to wait. I had to pay them on my own, and I have proof of that too.
Just a minute. But you were still dating at that time?
No, not anymore. After I bought the car for her, she did not speak with me for 3 weeks, and after that, I called her after 3 weeks of not hearing from her, and finally she said that she was seeing someone else. So.
Oh, so immediately after the car was purchased, you broke up?
No, we broke up beforehand. We were just kind of seeing each other like really good friends.
Were you hoping that you would get back together
Yes.
again? Is that what this was all about?
Yes.
Okay. All right, now I'll hear you.
First of all, we were only going out for 2 months. He followed me for 9 months after. There was nothing.
Get to the car.
The car was a gift because he knew I needed a car. We were in troublesome things in family. He knew that I needed a vehicle, so...
Look at me. Listen to me. Look at my face.
He wanted to buy my affection by buying me a vehicle. He told me he didn't want any money from me.
Just a second. Was he successful?
In
what you're telling me is that you were really not interested in him. Is that right?
Exactly.
And he was trying to buy your affection with the car.
Exactly.
So you said, okay. He took out the money. You knew he was taking out a personal loan for the money, for it. Is that right?
He had mentioned something.
Well, mention something. You knew he was taking a personal loan out to purchase the car for you. Is that right?
It wasn't even about that. He just told me that he wanted to buy me a vehicle.
Pay attention to what I'm saying to you, madam.
Yes.
You could live until you're 110. You won't be as smart as I am. So pay attention. Did you or did you not know that he was taking out a personal loan to buy you this car? And that was so that he hopefully would ingratiate himself to you and you would like him better. Is that right?
Correct.
Did it work?
No.
How soon after he took out the loan and bought you the car did you know it wasn't going to work?
We were just going to be friends through it all anyways. It wasn't going to be anything. He didn't want the money from me. Yes.
You knew that right along. Then you know what you're like? A prostitute. You took money from him under false pretenses. He was hoping for... You're not even a prostitute who delivers. Look at me! That is the cruelest thing that I ever heard. You wanted a car. You had a guy who cared for you, who was trying to help. Put your hand down! and you decided to use him for money, holding out the hope that it would be something more of a relationship than just friends until you got what you wanted, and then you told him to take off. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what you just told me. Precisely. You have the worst kind of character I've heard in a long time. How much does she owe you?
$2,724, I believe.
Judgment for the plaintiff. Let me tell you something, madam. You may have a reasonable-looking face. If you have a lousy character that will last you your whole life, you have to have a good character. You have to be a moral person. You don't use people cruelly. Do you understand? Good. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I trusted her at the time, but it turned out to kick me in the butt.
He was trying to get me back, and he couldn't, so he tried to do whatever he wanted to do.
And she knew exactly what it was. She's just been lying through her teeth.
I never made him. I never put a gun to his head to force him or anything. It was never like that.
She used me straight up to get what she wanted and then cast me aside whenever she felt like it.
He got what he wanted, so I'm done with him. And he's out of my life forever, so I'm happy.
I think Judy was right on.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Sparks versus Stevens. Step forward, please.
22-year-old construction worker Chris Sparks is suing his former friend, 22-year-old student Sean Stevens, for the cost to fix his truck. Chris says the truck was damaged while in Sean's possession.
Mr. Sparks, when were you beaten up at this bar?
In late December, or early.
Give me the date, sir, not late. Give me the date.
It was about December 20th.
Is that right?
November 21st.
Does that sound right to you, Mr. Sparks?
Yes.
You were beaten up, I gather, pretty badly, so that you were hospitalized. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, the defendant was a friend of yours. Somehow he was contacted and came over to the bar where you were. How did that happen, Mr. Stevens?
I was at my house with my girlfriend, and then I got a phone call from a buddy of ours and from another random person I've never met before. They called me and told me that Chris had been beaten up really bad and I needed to come down. Came down, went inside the bathroom. And
Okay, so you came down to the bar. How did you find Mr. Sparks when you got there?
When I arrived in the parking lot, there were everybody that was inside the bar was outside and told me he was in the bathroom. I ran in the bathroom. There was blood all over the place. He was lying on the ground.
Where was he bleeding from, Mr. Stevens?
He was bleeding from the back of his head, by the skull.
What about on his face?
All over his face. Here, everywhere.
Was an ambulance called?
Not personally by me, but by somebody that was there.
Did you accompany the ambulance to the hospital?
No, I didn't. They wouldn't allow me. Chris told me to take his truck and drive it down to UCLA Medical Center where the paramedics told me he would be. They flew him in a helicopter down there.
Oh, they took him by helicopter?
Yes, ma'am.
So you must have been in pretty bad shape, sir.
Yes.
And do you recall telling Mr. Stevens to take your truck to UCLA Medical Center?
No, because I was in and out of consciousness the whole time.
In and out of consciousness and in and out of sobriety, I assume, as well.
A little bit of that, too.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Your deputy, and obviously, is on your side.
My deputy, of course, is on my side, because most normal people would be on my side, because when you pass a car, you can't pass a car on both sides unless you're flying on top of it like Dumbo.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Chris Sparks is suing his former friend, Sean Stevens, for the cost to fix his truck. Chris says the truck was damaged while in Sean's possession.
So this is what this case is about, Officer Byrd. Listen to me very carefully. Okay. He gets a call late at night. He's with his girlfriend. He leaves his girlfriend. He comes to the bar where this guy was probably drunk as a skunk, got into a fight with somebody in the bar, and they pulverized him in the bathroom. Mr. Drunko over here asks him to please take his truck and drive it to the UCLA Medical Center. He does that. This is on November 21st. Okay. On November 23rd, he drops the truck off at one of their houses, either this one or the father over here. And they notice that the truck is damaged on the side. And they want Mr. Stevens to pay for the damaged truck. That's what this case is about. Isn't that right?
Yes.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Right. So now, Mr. Sparks, I would like for you to tell me, sir, why you think Mr. Stevens is responsible for the damage to your truck.
Well, The reason I think he's responsible is it was in his possession. My dad saw the truck at the hospital. It was not damaged. And
Oh, really?
yes.
I'd like to hear that. Well, not that it's dispositive of this case, but I would like to hear that. Step up, Mr. Sparks.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you get to UCLA when, sir?
I arrived at the emergency center at about 2:30 in the morning.
In the morning?
Oh, yes.
Really? And I assume that you had gotten a call. You were pretty upset.
Very upset. Oh, God.
So what happened when you got there, sir?
Well, parked the car, and then between my car and the entrance to the emergency room was the truck was parked where Sean had parked it. And on the way by, I happened to notice it and noticed that there was no damage. You know, everything seemed normal with the truck.
You went on both sides and noticed that?
Well, walk by and you see the driver's side and then you see the passenger side.
Really? How do you see the driver's side and the passenger side walking by it?
Cars pulled into a space like this. You walk by like this.
Yes, you see one side of the car.
And then you see the other side.
How do you see the other side?
You turn and look. I happened to notice it was Chris's truck.
You're a liar.
No, I'm not.
Oh, yes, you are. Either you're a liar or you're a lousy father. Which one are you?
Not a liar. I'm a great
Which
father.
one? No, you're either one, sir. Because if I got a call that my son had been airlifted to UCLA Medical Center because he was injured, the last thing I would do was to glance back to make sure that the truck was okay. That's the last thing I would do.
Well, Your Honor.
That's the last thing I would do because there wasn't any indication that he was in an accident in the truck. So either you're lying about seeing it or you're lying about being a good father.
No, I did not double back. On the way by the car, I noticed both sides of the truck. Your deputy, and obviously, is on your side.
My deputy, of course, is on my side, sir. You know, I don't know why? Because most normal people would be on my side because when you pass a car, you can't pass a car on both sides unless you're flying on top of it like Dumbo.
Well, Judge, all I can do is
like
tell you
Dumbo. Then maybe you could see the top and maybe you could see the sides.
Judge?
Other than that, when you pass by a car, you can only see one side.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Okay, I was just curious to hear what you had to say, sir. I was curious to hear how you justified going in to see your son, who has recently been airlifted to an emergency room, and checking to see if the car was okay on your way inside. Not that it's dispositive, because maybe after you got inside, somebody came by while the car was in the parking lot and sideswiped it. Is that possible?
I guess it's possible.
Of course. Now, when you got there, was Mr. Stevens there?
Oh, yes. And glad,
Did you
glad
say,
he was there.
listen to me carefully, sir. Did you say to Mr. Stevens, thank you very much. What can I do to help you? Can I drive you home? Thank you very much for being in the truck here. Is there anything that I can do?
Well, my first concern was after seeing my son,
No, your first concern was looking at the truck, according to you.
and when I was in the room. After I saw Chris, then that's all I was worried about. And I appreciated Sean. You know.
Good. So you appreciated him so much you're suing him.
Well,
Is
if the
that
truck
right?
is damaged,
What?
what do you expect me to do?
I expected you to pay for it, and thank you, lucky stars, that your son is standing next to you. Case is dismissed. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm trying to help a friend out.
I think it turned out bad.
I guess in his eyes, we obviously weren't that good of friends.
She didn't choose to believe it.
I miss his friendship.
It's over.
I'm happy it's over with.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Oaklander versus Young. Step forward, please.
Insurance claims agent Leah Oaklander is suing 29-year-old teacher Jennifer Young for allowing a shopping cart to hit her car. Jennifer says it was an act of God.
Had you been grocery shopping when this incident happened?
Yes, I was grocery shopping, and I made sure to place.
You were grocery shopping. You brought your groceries out. You had them in your car. The defendant was also grocery shopping that day?
Yes, Your Honor.
And she had all of her stuff in a basket. She took her stuff from the basket, loaded it in her car, and put the basket someplace. Is that right?
I put it back on the sidewalk where it belongs by the store.
No, no, no. You put it back someplace. You didn't put it back where it belonged because it rolled down and rolled into her car. Is that what happened?
Yes, and it caused...
Shot? Yes, that's it. Rolled into your car and caused damage.
Yes, it did.
And Miss Young says it's not her fault. Now, explain to me why it's not your fault. Go ahead.
Your Honor, I put the cart back on the sidewalk because this is a very prestigious organic food store. There is usually 1 to 2 workers who are there helping us load our groceries and remove the shopping cart, put it back into the store. There is not even a shopping cart receptacle in the parking lot. I did not leave the cart in the parking lot. I put it up on the sidewalk. It was no longer my cart. It stopped moving. I made sure it was not moving. I loaded my groceries. I got into the car. I was starting to leave when it happened. It was an act of God. I can't be responsible for the wind.
Yes, you can. Because this has happened to everybody, and everybody knows that when you take a shopping cart, you take it from a place where it has been secured, and if you were at a very prestigious store, they're usually one inside the other, intertwined in such a way that they all don't roll. Now, if you take your shopping cart and merely put it up on the sidewalk, and then say, because I put it up on the sidewalk in a place where I was no longer in control of it, anything that happens to that shopping cart is not my fault anymore, that's what you're really saying.
I wasn't touching the cart.
You don't have to be touching the cart, madam. It was your responsibility to see to it that this cart was in a spot where it was not on a hill, it was not on a roll, it would not jiggle down and hit somebody else's car. That's what you're supposed to do. That's responsible. Between the two of you, whose fault is it, yours or hers?
I believe it's an act of God. The cart is still on the sidewalk. I've never had to take it any farther than the sidewalk because that is where the workers remove the carts and put them inside the building. If there was a different protocol, I would have followed it. I acted responsibly, I left the cart there, and I did the right thing. But I think there's a difference between being nice and being taken advantage of.
I don't think that you did the right thing. I think that you did the thing that was most expedient for you. You know, how many people go into a shopping center and there is a place to put your carts? You know, those aisles that say replace carts here. And how many of us have seen people take their groceries out of the carts, put it into the trunks of their cars, and then, instead of putting the carts where they belong, just leaving them in between the cars and walking away? What happens if a second later a gust of wind comes and moves that cart so it hits another car?
Your Honor,
who's responsible?
The store is responsible at the moment that I've left the cart on the sidewalk.
Did I ask you a question?
No.
Then don't speak.
I wasn't speaking to you. I was speaking to Ms.
You don't speak to anybody in a courtroom unless the judge asks you a question. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Bottom line, the store is not responsible. When people avoid responsibility like you're avoiding responsibility, because what you're saying to me is the store should have had more cart employees out there to take my cart so I didn't have to put it in a place where it was secure. And if the store did not choose to do that, why should I be responsible? Because yours were the last hands that were on this cart. That's why. So let me see the damage to your car, please.
The broken side marker lights.
Not a big deal.
No.
I mean, it's not a big deal. The whole business comes to nothing. The whole business comes to $126.
This will show you how far Miss Young had to walk to put her car in the proper place behind the railing where my shopping cart was and where I drove up to pick my groceries up.
Just a minute. So you mean there is a place where there are bars?
Yes, there's a place that...
There is a place where there are bars around it so that if you put your cart...
Yes.
The cart can't roll back into the street.
Exactly.
Oh. Miss Young didn't tell me that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Okay. Miss Young didn't tell me that. She just told me she put it up on the sidewalk.
I've been there numerous times, Your Honor. I've seen other people put their carts on the sidewalk. I didn't think it was against the law to leave your car on the sidewalk.
Do you see these people laughing at you? They're laughing at you.
I don't care.
You can be there numerous times, and you can see a lot of people doing the wrong thing. But clearly, the store made provisions for you to do it the right way. The right way is to put it behind these barriers so that it won't roll off the sidewalk into somebody's car. You have an estimate for your damage.
Yes,
it's not a big deal. Should have taken care of it and not brought it to court so that you're sopping up court time over nonsense. $126.62. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I think there's a big difference between being nice and being taken advantage of.
She was negligent and refuses to accept responsibility for her negligence.
I don't think it's wrong to leave a shopping cart, you know, on a sidewalk.
She could have walked 4 or 5 feet to put the shopping cart in the place where it belonged.
It's ludicrous that I was even had to come here.
Ms. Young made an oral agreement to reimburse me for the damage to my vehicle.
For a $20 light bulb? I don't think so.
She was responsible and wants to not take responsibility.
It rolled by the wind. It was, not her responsibility.
It was not a windy day. I have the weather report from the Washington Post, and the wind was between 10 to 15 miles an hour.
It's a moral issue. I'm a nice person. I'm not going to be taken advantage of. I'll do the right thing, but I think this crosses the line.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Edwards versus Garmany. Step forward, please.
Security Officer Gloria Edwards is suing 18-year-old student Charity Garmany for damage to her car due to an accident. Charity says she was being chased.
Miss Edwards, it is your claim that the defendant, who you don't know, hit your car. Her car was traveling in reverse.
Yes.
Miss Garmany says, well, it's true she was traveling in reverse, but it was really both your faults. So tell me about it. When did it happen and where?
Okay, it happened April the 22nd on North Houston Street around 7:45.
Where were you going?
I was on my way to the grocery store.
Tell me what happened.
Okay, I was traveling south on North Houston Street.
Which is your car?
Car number 2 is my car. And about 500 feet from me was car number 1, which was her car. All of a sudden, I see her reverse lights come on. And I swerved to the right of the road, tried to get out of her way. And
when you say you saw her reverse lights go on, did she start to travel in reverse?
Yes. It was like at full speed because I had just turned onto this street, and I was doing maybe 15 miles an hour. And all of a sudden, I just saw her reverse light come on, so I was trying to get out of her way.
So you moved to try to get out of the way,
right?
And she hit you,
right,
on the side of your car,
right?
Okay. I assume she got out of the car.
Well, I got out of my car. I got out and walked around, and I asked her what was going on, and she said this girl was beating on the hood of her car. And I told her, I said, well, look at the damage that you've done to my vehicle and your vehicle. It's going to cost more to have mine and yours fixed than it is for a fist dent that somebody put on yours.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Gloria Edwards says her car was damaged when Charity Garmany hit her while driving in reverse. Charity says she was being chased by another vehicle.
Okay, now I'll hear from you.
Okay, I was driving. Me and my friends were driving down the street. We was going to get off the road, was leaving to go across the railroad tracks. And I was coming forward.
And what?
I was coming forward, going off the street. I'm right here.
You were going forward?
Yes, to go across the street, to go across the railroad tracks. That's when Nikki and Aaron pulled their car in front of mine to block me in.
Nikki and Aaron are people that you know?
I know them, but I don't know them personally. I know them by name.
But you knew them?
Yes.
So they blocked your car?
Yes. Then Marcus pulls from this street right here, completely blocks me in from going forward.
Now, Mr. is car number D?
Yes.
Did you know Mr.
Yes.
Had you had any trouble with him?
No.
So he's blocking your car?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So she gets out of the car and starts beating on the hood of my car, telling me to get out.
The girl who was in car number C?
Yes, which is Nikki.
And you never had any words with Nikki? You didn't know why? No, come on.
She had attempted to pull us over before.
Why?
I guess she wanted to fight. Still to this day, I'm not quite sure why.
Why would she want to fight with you if you only knew her by name?
Because my witness, she doesn't like her.
All right, so you had somebody in your car that she didn't like?
Mm-hmm. My witness.
And that's what this is all about?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
So she gets out of the car and starts hitting the hood of my car, telling me to get out, that she's going to kick our ass.
Were you frightened?
Not frightened. I just didn't want to fight. I saw no point in it.
Well, were you frightened when Mr. pulled his car up and you were totally blocked in?
Yes, I couldn't go forwards.
So you were very frightened. Were you frightened?
Well, yes, but I mean, because I couldn't go forward, so she gets out of the car, telling me she's going to kick my... I can't go forwards. So I looked in my rearview mirror. I put my car in reverse. Maybe 5 miles an hour. It was slow enough. She was still beating on the hood of my car, telling me to get out.
Who's she?
Nikki.
Who was Nikki? You're pointing to Nikki.
Her witness.
You're Nikki?
I'm Nikki.
Oh, stand up here, young lady. Do you know the plaintiff? Did you know her before this incident happened?
No.
Well, what's all this about with getting out of your car and blocking her car?
I've never blocked her car, and I mean, I was standing on the depot corner. Me and some of my friends were standing on the depot corner, just talking, hanging out, and these girls kept riding by all day, screaming and cussing at us.
That's not true. We just got there.
telling us they were going to beat us up, and I mean, just acting silly, shooting us birds. And then finally, they kept riding by, and me and my friend Erin, the girl I was with, we were fixing to leave, and they come down the road, and so I was trying to stop them. And
How were you trying to stop them?
I was yelling at them, trying to stop them. I never touched their car. They were never blocked in. Nobody ever pulled out in front of them or anything.
That's
They were
not
never
true.
blocked in.
Sit down. Nikki, there's a reason she went into reverse. She didn't all of a sudden have a lapse in her mind, and instead of going forward, she decided, well, I'm going to ride backwards. People don't do that. So she was clearly frightened about something. Nikki, go ahead.
So I proceeded to reverse.
You went into reverse because
Yes.
you were frightened and you wanted to get away from them.
Yes.
And you hit her car.
No, she hit me. I was
No. Your car number A, right?
Yes.
You
she
hit
did
her.
not proceed to slow down. She instead speeded up. She even said to the police officer that she speeded up. She saw my reverse lights on. She
And she
speeded
tried
up.
to get out of the way. Look at the way her car is. Miss.
When you see a reverse
Miss.
lights on, you
Miss.
usually reverse.
No, you don't. You try to get out of the way.
You reverse. I was not that close to her. She sped up to go around me.
She tried to get out of the way. Look at where the damage is. Look, miss. Look at your photograph. Look at it. That is a photograph of somebody who's trying to get away from you. Going that way, trying to get away from you because you're going backwards. If she sped up, she would have hit you straight on. She's trying to get away from you. Duh. Okay. The lesser of the two estimates that you have is 2616?
Yes.
You have a photograph of the damage?
Yes.
Can I see it, please? Did you have damage to your car?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you sue Nikki?
I tried to file a harassment warrant on her, and
I'm not talking about a harassment warrant. I'm talking about you say that she caused the damage to your car. Did you sue her?
No, not yet.
What are you looking her up for?
I thought she said something.
Oh, she doesn't look like she's going to say a word. You say that this young lady and her friends caused this accident.
Yes, they did.
Well, why wouldn't you sue them?
I just graduated out of high school. I haven't had time yet. I'm going to the I'm in the process.
Well, meanwhile, you take care of the plaintiff's damage. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,616.83. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was all set up. She did not proceed to slow down. Instead, she speeded up and hit me.
I tried to get out of her way.
Her witness has tried to pull me over before.
I don't know anything about the altercation that this young lady had with those girls.
And then later on we got fought. She cut me with a razor on my arm.
There was never a fight between us. You must be mistaken.
I could not go forward. I had to go in reverse.
I don't have time for child's play, so I don't know anything about what problems they had.
Accounts payable clerk Karen Martinez is suing window tinting technician Kent Singleton for detaining her at his place of business and then assaulting her.
Order. All rise.
Yeah, on the case number 225 on the calendar in the matter of Martinez versus Singleton. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
All right, Ms. Martinez, your claim is one for assault and injury that you allege that Mr. Singleton caused you. I'm going to try to put this case in perspective so we can get down to the nitty-gritty of it swiftly because I have other business today. You brought your car into his shop to have your car windows tinted.
Yes.
Had you ever had dealings with him before?
Never.
You brought it in early one morning, and when you called at about midday to find out the car was ready, Mr. Singleton or somebody else in the shop said that they hadn't started working on it yet, but it would be ready sometime later that day.
Correct.
Well, you were annoyed that your car hadn't been worked on yet. You came down to the shop to get the car. It was at that point that you claimed that there was an altercation. You got into your car and you claimed that Mr. Singleton became obstreperous, slammed the car door onto your left arm, causing you to be injured, causing pain and suffering and a whole bunch of other things. Mr. Singleton says you're a very good actress, right?
Yes.
When had you made arrangements to take the car into his shop, Miss Martinez?
I called him the evening before. I called him on the 26th.
And he said bring it in what time in the morning?
He said he does it only by appointments and to be there at 8 o'clock.
And you were there at 8 a.m.?
I was.
What time did he tell you to pick up the car?
He asked me to call him about 2 o'clock.
So what time did you call?
I actually called at 12 as I was leaving for lunch. I thought maybe when I was done with at my lunch hour that I could go by and pick up my car, because the night before he had told me he would only need my car for 4 hours.
Okay. Called at noon, and what did he say?
He was very angry at me and told me that I was not supposed to call him until 2 o'clock. I was told not to call him. And I tried explaining to him, well, I'm leaving for lunch right now. I was going to be gone for an hour. I thought maybe at 1 p.m. I could come by and pick it up. Well, we haven't started it yet. And he said, call me back at 2. And I thought at that point, because he was so rude to me on the telephone, I didn't feel comfortable with him having my vehicle. So I called him back and I told him that I was on my way, that I wasn't going to have my car done there. If he needed my car for 4 hours, he wasn't going to have my car ready by 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, if he hadn't even started
Fine,
yet.
so you went down to get your car. You told him, don't work on my car, I'm coming down to pick it up.
Yeah, and I said it very nicely. I wasn't angry.
So you went down to pick up your car.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I walked into the building. There, I have pictures of the building. I walked into the building on the left-hand side.
Would you talk to me and stop looking at pictures? I don't care which side you walked in.
Okay, well, I walked into the business, and I was standing at the counter. There was 2 gentlemen tinting windows. Mr. Singleton was not there. And I stood there for a moment, and I kind of said out loud, I'm here to pick up my keys for my vehicle. And I looked over, and there was a board on the left-hand side, and there was my keys, and there was an invoice there. And I go, oh, here they are right here. No one said anything, so I picked up my keys, and I actually took the invoice as well. It had no writing on it but my address. I was not comfortable with him having my address, so I wanted to remove my address out of there, and if he brought the invoice, it would show very clearly that I was not messing with his numbers if he had reasons.
You didn't think about all this stuff. Come on, you picked up your keys and the invoice was on it. What did you do next?
I started walking to my vehicle, and I believe his witness here was yelling at me, not the paperwork, not the paperwork. And I continued walking. Well, he came over and he snatched the paper out of my hand. And I said, well, that's okay. I go, I just wanted my address out of there. He got the paper and there was no words. I went to my car. I got in my car. Mr. Singleton came out of a totally different building, and he came up to my car, in front of my car, over to my car, and opened my car door. He was yelling at me.
Opened which door?
He opened my driver's door, where I was sitting. He opened my door.
You had already gotten into the car and closed the door?
I was in my car. I had started my car.
Go ahead.
And so he came over, opened my car door. He started yelling at me. He was furious at me. For what reason, I don't know why.
What did he say, Miss Martinez?
Oh, he was yelling at me that I was supposed to not call him until 2 o'clock. I couldn't even tell you everything he was yelling at me. I don't remember. I was shocked that he was yelling at me.
Go ahead.
So I tried closing my car door. I reached to close my car door, and he had his arm like this on my car door standing, and he pulled it back away from me. I said, it really doesn't matter. And he was so angry, and he just kept yelling at me. And so I sat there. There was nothing I could do. And then he's called me, and he slammed my door as hard as he could, and it hit me in my arm area here, and it shoved my area here. When he did that, he walked away. I sat there for a minute, 1, because I was in shock, 2, because he had just hurt me. And then I got out of my car and told him I was calling the police and having him arrested for assault.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What you testified to today did not require a whole bunch of tears. You didn't find out that somebody died. You're a little bit of an actress.
And later today,
he proposed to me and broke it off.
So what? He wasn't going to be a good husband. You're all going to go home and you're going to say, lucky, we called it off when we should have. Bye and good luck.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Karen Martinez says window tinting technician Kent Singleton detained her at his place of business and then assaulted her. Kent says Karen is a good actress.
Go ahead. He yelled at me continually still. I asked my girlfriend, because my phone was not charged, I asked my girlfriend if I could use her telephone. So I got the phone from her and I called 911. He's yelling at me to get off his property. I was not in my car at that time and just kept yelling to get off his property. And I said, I'm trying, because I was getting the phone and dialing. So I finally did get off his property, and I waited for the police for about an hour and a half to get there. They took a report. I have the report.
I'd like to see the report.
Okay. The girlfriend that was with me,
She had fully intended to come today. She's a school teacher, and she wasn't able to come today. Her statement...
I don't take her statement.
Okay.
How come you decided not to prosecute?
When the officer came out and took the report, I told him that I wanted to have him arrested, and he talked me out of it. He said that if I did that, he could turn around and have me arrested or have me prosecuted.
For what?
For a false statement, or I don't know why he said that. He just said that it could turn around on me.
Just says the victim desired no prosecution.
I've also talked to somebody at the station since then.
Don't tell me what you said to somebody at the station, madam. That's hearsay. Okay.
Well, I wanted to
have
find
a couple
out.
of things. What?
I wanted to find out because I didn't know that's what that meant. I didn't know that.
Well, that's
that
what it means. It means no prosecution. What do you mean you don't know what that meant? No prosecution.
Well, I didn't have the report at that time, so
but that's
I
what it
didn't
means.
know.
The victim desires no prosecution means that you decided not to prosecute. Mr. Singleton, okay, you have a slightly different version of the events, sir, but there's one thing that you do say. She was in her car with the car door closed, and you told the police that you opened her car door. Why did you do that, sir?
Because Rich told me what she said to him and what she did up in front, and he said that...
Wait a second. What she did was she took her keys and a piece of paper that was a work order. Your employee had already gotten back the work order. There's nothing on the work order except her name and address and what work was to be done, because no work was done on the car. Is that right?
Yeah, but it shows proof. I mean, if she went and had her car tinted someplace else and, say, got a bad job, she could sit there and say, I have a receipt.
Correct. She could have done that, sir. However, your employee had already gotten back the work order, so all she had was her car and her keys. Why did you open her car door?
Because she basically took the course of events from the very beginning to the very end and twisted them around. And
No. Let me explain something. It's not what happened. And you told her to be there at 8 o'clock. Happens all the time. You tell everybody that day, bring your car in at 8 o'clock. When you get around to doing their car, you do it. She hadn't specified to you what time she needed her car back. And this I'm getting all from what you told the police initially, sir. So, because she wasn't one of the customers that day that said, I need my car back in 4 hours, you pushed her over until later. And you did other cars before you did hers.
I never do that.
Well, you did. You were doing other cars before you did hers. But that's okay. You're entitled to do that.
No, I don't do that, ma'am.
Okay. You're entitled to do it if you want to do it. I mean, you hadn't started working on her car at noon, and she brought the car in at 8 o'clock in the morning.
We tell people to be there between 8 and 9 in the morning.
Fine.
Okay. The cars are done according to the way they came in. I have a very, very strong company policy of not putting anybody in front of somebody.
Listen to me, Mr. Singleton. You can tell people, be there at 8 o'clock. It takes 4 hours. You do not explain to them that you're coming in on a first-come, first-served basis. And that may be your policy. Because if you worked strictly on appointment, you would have said to her, be there at 2 o'clock and I will have your car ready for you at 6 o'clock. That's an appointment. But you don't. You have the cars stacked up so that the cars are waiting for you rather than you waiting for the cars. That's your business. You're entitled to do that. I'm not faulting you for that, sir. I'm faulting you because you opened her car door. The situation had already de-escalated. If there was any problem up front, any problem at all up front, that had already been resolved with your witness, who took the paperwork back. Right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
So she had a car, she had her keys, she was hysterical. So she's out. So
Ma'am, may I tell you something?
I don't want to hear anything else from you because I don't like exaggerators either. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
I hear you.
Good. Because what you testified to today did not require a whole bunch of tears. I mean, nobody killed your child or you didn't find out that somebody died.
No, I'm
It's
very
months later.
sensitive.
It's months later. You had an altercation with a mechanic, which happens frequently, unfortunately, and he slammed the door, and I believe that he hurt your arm when he slammed the door, that the door hit your arm because you're not totally in the car, you're not careful of that, and he slammed it, and at that moment it hurt your arm. I don't believe that you almost died as a result of that.
No, I
Understand
didn't.
that? Okay, so I don't see why it required all the tears, unless, as the defendant says, you're a little bit of an actress.
No, I'm very
That doesn't mean that
sensitive.
he's allowed to do what he did. He can't. Because you slammed the door in her arm, and you hurt her. So aside from saying, I'm sorry, you got to compensate her. Let me see your medical bills. What day of the week was it that you went to his place of business?
It was a Thursday.
Were you working on Friday, June 28th?
Yes, I was at work.
Right. And am I correct that the first time you went to any sort of a clinic or doctor was not until July 1st?
Yes.
And what time did you go to the clinic on July 1st?
I went as soon as I could get the first appointment. I went between 8 and 8:30 in the morning.
And then you went to work that day?
No, I did not. I was taken off work for 3 days. I couldn't move my head. I couldn't drive.
But you were fine the next day?
No, I was not fine the next day.
You stayed at work all day on the 28th?
Yes, and my arm was very sore.
Okay.
But it was 3 days later I woke up and something in my neck and my shoulder here was hurting me, and I couldn't lift my head off the bed. I called my supervisor. My supervisor from work came and picked me up and took me to the doctors. I couldn't drive. I couldn't hardly do anything.
What else do you want to tell me, Mr. Singleton?
I feel that when she called and said, "Is my car ready?" She says, "I have to have it by 2 o'clock. I have somewhere to go." I said, "Ma'am, it will be ready by 2 o'clock. It takes us an hour to do each car, then it will sit out outside for an hour. It's hot during the summertime. The tent dries quick." I says, "It will be ready by 2. She hangs up and calls back a minute later. "I'm going to come and pick up my car right now."
Fine.
Now, I've had people upset before because their car isn't being done first. But we do have a bad problem with people making appointments. If we tried to do 8, 10, 12, 2, and people don't show, then we're sitting around for 2 hours not making any money. And it is a business.
I understand that, but she said, "I'm coming to get my car." She has a right to do that.
She does have a right to do that.
And I wasn't angry.
I didn't ask you to say anything.
Okay.
He's been very quiet when you've been testifying.
You're right.
Go ahead.
What she did to Rich and what she did to me.
What'd she do to you?
Basically, she twisted. She goes, "I can't believe you haven't touched my car yet."
So?
And I said, "Well, ma'am," I says, "we will have it done at that time." I says, "It's very frustrating, you know, when you're sitting there trying to run a business and people," I'm very clear with people. I tell them.
So I'm not interested in being clear with people. I want to know why you didn't just let her get into her car and leave. You hadn't touched her car, hadn't done any work on her car. She has a right to let that happen. So, should have just let her go.
I probably should have.
And you were angry, and you slammed the car door on her.
Well, I know the door didn't touch her. I mean,
You don't know that at all.
I looked right at her.
You don't know that it didn't hit her at all. You were angry. You slammed the car door. That's what you did. That's what you did, Mr. Singleton.
Can I have Rich stand up for a sec?
No.
Because he was standing right there.
No. I believe that you slammed the car, that you were really angry, that you came in. It was one less job that you were going to do that day. You felt that she was being unreasonable, that you were told her to call at 2 o'clock. Instead of calling at 2, she called at 12, 2 hours beforehand, which took somebody away from what they were supposed to be doing in order to answer her questions when she was told not to call until 2 o'clock.
We don't tell people, you know.
Well, she was told not to call until 2, that you weren't going to have any news for her until 2 o'clock as to when her car was going to be ready. Whatever it is, you don't want a dissatisfied customer. Not happy? She leaves. You lost your temper, and you slammed the car door, and it hurt her. It didn't hurt her $5,000 worth. Did you go to see a lawyer, by the way?
No.
Lawyer would tell her, this is not a $5,000 injury. How much out-of-pocket expense did you have?
$550.25, ma'am.
And how many days were you out of work?
3 days.
How much do you earn a day?
$136, ma'am.
Your out-of-pocket expenses are approximately $1,500. To that, I'm adding another $1,000 for your pain and suffering. That's it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Well, that's pretty evident. The way she's crying and everything, she is a drama queen.
The whole thing was upsetting, and I'm glad that it's over now.
I think she blew everything up in her mind.
He did that to me and thought that he could do it and get away with it.
Nothing happened.
And I hope that he doesn't do that to somebody else.
She referred to his size and basically called him a type of animal.
I'm just happy, and I hope he doesn't do that to somebody else.
I'm not saying that I did not get hot, but she was not just a total innocent victim.
Noah Joyner and Harlan Hendrickson are suing their former employer, Christopher Ricks, for unpaid wages and vandalism.
Court come to order. All rise.
Seat, please.
Case 2094, Joyner Hendrickson versus Ricks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that I'm going to start out with Mr. Joyner. Who is that? That would be you, because we start with you. He came in later to this scenario, is that right?
Right.
So let me try to understand, Mr. Joyner, what it is that you're suing the defendant for, considering what you wrote to me in your complaint. You were looking for a job. Whatever business you had went south, and you didn't have any money.
That's not true.
Well, let's see.
It wasn't said like that, but we did not lose a...
After losing my jewelry business.
Yes, ma'am. That's not right.
Well, that's what you signed in your complaint.
Yes.
So I can only go by what you signed in your deposition. That you lost your jewelry business, that's what it says. That you were looking for a job. The defendant has a theater,
Yes, ma'am.
among other businesses.
Yes, ma'am.
And you sought out the defendant, Mr. Joyner?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me how you sought him out.
I was vending at a coffee shop. I was vending my jewelry. It's not a lost business.
Would you just get on to how you met him?
Definitely. So I was vending there, and I saw at the theater Pride Weekend. So I had called Chris Ricks, said, hey, is it okay if I come up there and vend my jewelry?
Just a second. So you called him. Was his name on the poster? How did you find him?
I just called the theater's number, and he answered.
Okay, so you weren't calling him, you were just calling the number.
Yes, ma'am.
So you asked him, can I come and sell my jewelry at your theater? When was that?
That was Wednesday, June 16th, 2022.
Okay, and you were having some sort of an event?
Yes, ma'am.
Did Mr. Joyner come and set up his jewelry booth?
They did, in fact.
Were they charged for that?
No, I
Nothing.
did not. I
So-
just simply offered the space. They kind of told me their backstory and that they were having financial troubles, and I was trying to do a good deed for the community.
Okay, so you were not charged for the space?
Right. Yes, ma'am.
And you went up there on what date to sell your jewelry?
We started Thursday night, June 17th, 2022.
When you say we, is that you?
All three of us, yes.
Okay, so did you sell any jewelry?
A little bit.
So not much, not enough for the three of you spending a day on the
Yes.
17th. And then how did it come about that you sought out a job from Mr. Ricks? Because you did seek a job. On what date did you ask him if there was any work?
Thursday night. Thursday the 16th.
And what were you supposed to do?
Supposed to bartend, open, close.
That's not accurate.
I'll get to you.
And
What
run
were you
concession
supposed
stand.
to do?
And run the concession stand. Bartend, close, open, and run the concession stand.
During what hours?
4 p.m. that day till 12 a.m., 1 a.m. that night. Could not really remember.
Okay, and did you do that?
Yes.
And you weren't selling your jewelry at that time?
I was going off and on. So anytime he had called me for a different job, I would take that. Sorry.
So the answer is you were doing both.
Yes, ma'am.
So you were doing your own business and doing whatever task Mr. Ricks asked you to do.
Yes, ma'am.
That was on the 16th. And did he pay you for that work?
Yes, he ended up
And
paying
just a
us.
second. And how much did he give you?
Gave us $264 for that weekend.
Not we.
I gave me $264 that week.
Did he work that weekend?
Yes, we all three worked that weekend.
Doing what?
Everything.
Well,
we
Mr.
opened.
Hendrickson is not suing for any wages from him other than for the painting that he did later. I'm asking you, what did you do for him and when, and how much did you get paid?
I did opening, closing duties for him. I ran a
For
bar.
how many days?
4 days, Your Honor.
4 days.
In the beginning, but I did pick up more stuff whenever he called me for more opportunities. So he would be like, hey, we have jam band tonight. So I would say, okay, I could work.
Okay, so you worked, say, until June 20th, you said, for 4 days, and then you would work after that period of time?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you stop going to the theater for the purposes of doing anything for Mr. Ricks? Month and day?
Oh.
One of the things you're supposed to have, Mr. Joyner, when you come to court, and if you're suing for wages, is you're supposed to have it right here, right in the front of your brain. What date you started, what date you stopped, what hours you worked, what you did. That's what you're supposed to have. Do you understand? Okay. Mr. Ricks, on what date was the last date you saw Mr. Joyner at your theater doing anything?
Saturday, June 25th.
So it would be a fair statement that certain days you saw him between the 16th of June and the 25th of June.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you told me about the 16th that you started working part-time because you were back and forth between your own business and doing something for him, for which actually he gave you free space to sell your jewelry. Now, when you go someplace, you usually pay for space to sell your jewelry, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, I know that because I've had hundreds of cases involving people who rent space in a theater or under a tent or in a yard so that they can sell their jewelry. He gave it to you for nothing.
Yes.
And you're back and forth doing little errands for him on the 16th. Like what? 16th, while you were selling your jewelry. Tell me what you did.
We worked the jam band for him that night.
Not a we. I don't want to hear a we.
I worked the jam band that night. He has like a jazz band that comes in and performs.
And what do you mean you worked?
I worked the concession. I opened, closed, bartended for him. Anything that he was calling me over to do.
That's a little too loosey-goosey for me.
Yeah, I can tell
That's a little
exactly.
too loosey-goosey for me. Okay, let's go. What did he do, if you remember, on the 16th?
On the 16th, 17th, and 18th, that's when they had their jewelry set up. He did not work my concession stand at all. He did not work for me that time at all.
That's not
he
true, Your
started
Honor.
Don't
working.
speak. Do not speak. Do you see I asked you questions? He was quiet. Now it's his turn to speak. Now you have to be quiet. You understand?
He worked Sunday, June 19th from 9 to 2, which was 5 hours. That was brunch. He worked June the 22nd. They were late. They arrived at 3:12.
You said they arrived.
Both of them came that day.
On the 20s?
On June the 22nd.
22nd.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the first time that both Mr. Joyner and Mr. Hendrickson came together?
To work for me in a theater capacity, yes.
Okay. That's incorrect. And that was June 19th?
No, that was June the 22nd. But actually, I misspoke. I apologize. They both worked June 19th for brunch. They both worked June the 22nd. On June the 24th, he had a text meltdown, and then he came to work and worked 5 to 9. I have their hours exactly.
5 to 9, and that's just Mr. Joyner or both of them?
They both came on June the 25th, Your Honor.
And worked from when to when?
On the 25th, which is Saturday, he worked from 5:20 to 10:30. He passed on the concession opportunity where he could have made more money.
No, but he worked doing what?
He trailed me. I was trying to teach him managerial type cash in, cash out, etc., and the business situation of the theater, because that's what he proposed to me that he was educated to do. And so
you mean managing a theater?
Yeah, just kind of helped me with open close duties, overseeing that tasks are done by the other employees, etc.
Okay, so it sounds as if he and Mr. Hendrickson worked for a limited number of days.
Correct.
How many days in total?
In the total project, which is painting.
No, not
just the
painting.
theater. Just the theater.
Just in the theater.
Joyner worked 4 days at the theater, and Harland worked 3 days at the theater.
Okay, and how many?
4, I beg your pardon.
4.
Yes, ma'am.
Your last day of work, there was the 25th of June?
Yes, ma'am. At the theater.
I'm talking about only at the theater.
I think he worked 18 hours, just at a quick glance here.
18 hours during the 4 days.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Hendrickson, how many hours did he work on? You don't have anything in front of you, Mr. Hendrickson, so I assume you have nothing. No physical evidence, is that right?
Correct, Your Honor.
All right, good. How many hours?
Just under 12, actually.
Say 12 hours. So one worked 18 hours, one worked 12 hours. Do you have any data to indicate that those hours are wrong?
No, ma'am.
Okay, great.
There was no actual documentation, like we did not have a clock in, clock out, but the 18 hours is not correct, though. We have no data.
You have no data?
Right.
He does.
It's not actual fact. It's not fact.
I don't know whether it's factual. How do I know? You're supposed to keep track.
Noah Joyner and Harlan Hendrickson claim their former employer, Christopher Ricks, owes for unpaid wages and vandalism. Christopher is countersuing for damage to his apartment complex and slander.
Okay, how much were you paid, Mr. Joyner? Because part of it is your wages that you're requesting for working in the theater. How much in total did Mr. Ricks pay you?
$264.
That's for the theater work?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much, Mr. Hendrickson, did Mr. Ricks pay you?
$204.
Sarah, do math for me, would you please? 18 into 264 and 12 into 204. Now, on what date, Mr. Joyner, because this is where it gets sort of fuzzy to me. So far, this is what I'm getting. That the three of you were trying to start a business that was marginally successful in selling jewelry. So far, do we agree on that?
Yes, ma'am.
And as part of selling your jewelry, you approached the defendant, and it was really a cold call. You called a regular number, not Mr. Ricks personally, and told him your story. And he said, well, if you want to come down, I'll give you free space to sell your jewelry. And that was within his theater area.
Yes, ma'am.
So you would say that was very nice of him. And you worked for him, and he showed you the place, he showed you the books, he showed you, you started to do other things. Now, at some point, this is where I go a little fuzzy with you, Mr. Joyner, and maybe you can help me understand you. So you have someone who's been nothing but nice to you so far. On what date did you file a complaint with Alcohol and Beverage Control?
That was July 5th, 2022.
So let me figure this out. So you worked for him at the theater until June 25th. On July 5th, is that what you told me?
Well, after the 25th of June, so we had kind of like a weird period where I was We were trying to figure out if we still wanted to finish the apartments for him. And
No apartments. We haven't gotten to the apartments yet. I'm going to get to the apartments because he asked you to paint apartments. You went over there, and that's another part of your lawsuit. Just a second. Sarah Rose, how much did Mr. Joyner make per hour?
$14.60.
Minimum wage.
And Mr. Hendrickson
It's 11 in Arkansas.
would be 17 an hour.
And he made 17 an hour.
Correct, for 12 hours at 200.
But there was no
Those
actual.
hours are not correct.
There was no actual documentation. Like we did not have a clock in, clock out. But the 18 hours is not correct, though. We have
Just
no
a second.
data. We
Just
have
a
no
second.
data.
You have no data.
Right.
He does.
But there's no it's not actual fact. It's not factual.
I don't know whether it's factual. How do I know? You're supposed to keep track.
Yes, ma'am.
You're supposed to keep track.
We're not the business owners.
Just a second. You want
Of
the
the
money.
theater.
Right now, he's paid you more than the minimum wage for being around. I mean, the theater ran for how many years before they worked for you for 6 days?
Been about a year and a half. I bought it during COVID.
Okay. And this was your first time working in a theater.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So you had no fund of information. He wasn't paying you for expertise. He was paying you for those few days, and you were following him around, closing a stand, whatever you were doing, and you were paid more than the minimum wage, which is, I assume, more than you made selling your jewelry for the 3 days you were there.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Right.
Okay. I'm still going to wait for this answer, because at some point after you stopped working for him at the theater, and after you had mulled over some information that you thought you had acquired while you were working for him, I want you to do a step-by-step why you contacted the authorities, because he does have an alcohol license, right? I assume if you have an if you contact, don't look at each other. Just look at me. I'm actually the nastiest one here.
Agree.
Well, so alcohol beverage control. So what information, sir, did you give alcohol beverage control that caused the investigation?
Your Honor, he was not the one that called them. I was.
We both called. So what happened during the time that we were working those 4 days, he would serve other people alcohol. He would get on our asses about IDing people, how to sign the papers for ABC, everything. And I made sure to take a picture of the number. I didn't take a picture of the whole document itself.
What are you talking about? What document?
The ABC paper. Whenever we had to sign the paper saying that if we didn't ID someone and the ABC came in and found out about it, we would be fined and we would be held responsible, not Chris. We had to sign those papers.
Okay.
That stuff.
So you signed the
but
papers.
During that, after we signed that, we noticed Chris was still giving out free alcohol to people, pouring it, wasn't even checking people's IDs. So I called the ABC and I said, I think there's suspicion that he's giving minors alcohol. Because there were people there that were 19 years old that were coming up to us saying, oh, well, yeah, we're 19, but we're cool with Chris and stuff like that in ways. Like they had a way with Chris or whatever, friends with Chris. We just started working there. We don't know the regulars. We don't know what the life is like.
I'm just trying to think of why you would do that for somebody who was, forget whether I believe you or not, forget the loosey-goosey of what you just told me. Maybe he said,
We actually have a recording that he admitted to giving one of our 19-year-old employees alcohol. Because he said...
And? Just tell me, and? I want to know why you called them on July 5th. You were no longer there. Did that have to do with the painting? Was that before or after you started painting?
That was after we started painting.
Of course it was after you started painting. Now, so let's go to the second part of your lawsuit. Second part of your lawsuit involves the work that you both did for him. You have an apartment complex, Mr. Ricks.
Correct.
And that apartment complex contains how many apartments?
20. I bought it as a rehab.
And they-
It was completely vacant. And
At the time that you asked them if they wanted to paint it, it was vacant, all 20 units?
correct.
Tell me, how did you approach Mr. Ricks, or he you, about this house painting job?
We were trying to get away from all the stuff that we were seeing and hearing at the theater. So we asked if he had other jobs for us, and he said he had apartments that needed to be painted last week, and that if we could get in there and finish them, great.
Okay, now I'm going to come back to what you just told me. You just told me that you saw things at the theater that he served somebody that you know who was 19 alcohol. And that was very distressing to you. So distressing that you said to him, do you have any other work for us?
It wasn't just that
Just a second.
instance.
Just
no,
a
ma'am.
How many hours did you work on each of those days, Mr. Hendrickson?
I do not remember the hours for the days, but I calculated all the hours together, and it was 52.
Well, then you know how many hours you worked.
Technically, yes.
What do you mean, technically, yes?
Noah Joyner and Harlan Hendrickson claim their former employer, Christopher Ricks, owes for unpaid wages and vandalism. Christopher is countersuing for damage to his apartment complex and slander.
Okay. Did he take you over to paint the complex in handcuffs? Did he take you over there in a van? Did you ask him for additional work?
He's the only person really in Hot Springs, Arkansas that we felt like we could relate to and feel comfortable working for.
I asked you a very simple question. Give me a very simple answer. Did you ask him for more work?
Yes.
And did he say, I have an apartment complex that needs painting?
Yes.
And did you agree on a price?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was the name of the last person that you did painting for? House painting.
I did it for my parents when we built our house, but that's...
Very nice. I also painted a room once in my dining room when I was 24 years old. I actually thought I did a pretty good job. I would not hire myself out as a house painter, but because I painted my parents' living room when I was 12. So the answer is you had
no... The reason why he was asking us to paint because he couldn't find someone else to paint for him because he wasn't paying people.
I didn't ask Noah to paint.
Shh.
That's correct.
Just a second. Sir.
I was not asked to paint.
Sir.
No.
Mr. Joyner, you know what your problem is? Your problem is you were dissatisfied with what you saw at his theater. And then you went, and now I'm speaking. You were dissatisfied with what you saw at his theater. While you were there, working at the theater, you did nothing about it. Zero. Even if it was true, you did nothing about it.
We didn't want to lose our jobs at the time, Your Honor.
You didn't have jobs at the time. You stopped working for him on the 25th of June. You didn't call alcohol until July 5th, you said, so you were no longer working for him in the theater. So it didn't start to bother you, really. June 22nd, June 23rd, June 24th, June 25th, the 26th, the 27th, the 28th, 29th, 30th, all the way up until July 5th.
The ABC report was not just filed by me, and it wasn't just on July 5th. There was also another instance where it was filed earlier, but that was with them, and there's no evidence about it.
Just a second. You filed July 5th.
Yes, ma'am.
Now you're going to tell me what happened with the painting, because you finished the painting kerfuffle happened in July, is that right?
Right.
And it was after the painting kerfuffle that you called alcohol beverage. Yes, after the painting kerfuffle.
Well, it was during. It was during. What? It was during, kind of, almost.
You're getting the feeling that I'm not
sympathetic. Just me that filed the report with ABC.
Well, just a second. You mean one of these other people who was also jobless?
Filed.
I don't care.
So we shouldn't have reported it at all.
No,
I'm
trying to get to your motive, sir. If it was so abhorrent,
my motive. I have no motive. I am just owed.
Don't try to speak over me. Don't try to speak over me. That doesn't
fight for what I'm
work.
owed.
So far, you're not owed a thing for the theater. Now we're getting to the painting. I'm just trying to see what motivates somebody. And I'm not excusing the fact that if Mr. Ricks serves alcohol to minors, that's not a good thing to do. He can get into real difficulty. They conducted an investigation as a result of the calls. All I have to ask you is this. Do you still have your liquor license?
Absolutely.
Okay. Was it ever revoked?
No. And I've had multiple in the state of Arkansas.
So you're not owed any money for the theater. Now we're going to get to the paint. When did you start painting in the complex? Date.
June 27th. 2022.
6/27. Did you paint there 6/28?
Yes.
Did you paint there alone or with Mr. Hendrickson?
Mr. Hendrickson.
Is that correct, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you paint on June 29th?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you paint after June 29th?
No, Your Honor.
So you painted there for 3 days. Is that correct?
Actually, 5 days that I was there. I started on the 23rd.
I was there for 3.
And did you work the 23rd?
I worked the 23rd through the 29th.
Just 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th. So you work weekends?
Yes.
That's not.
Did you work weekends?
I worked the 23rd through the 29th, 7 days.
Well, 7 days. Just a second. Pay attention to me. 7 days includes a weekend,
Yes.
Saturday and Sunday. Did you work
Yes.
Saturday and Sunday?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Not Sunday.
I'm going to go back to you. Did you work Saturday and Sunday?
I worked the morning of Sunday, and I left 3 hours
All right.
after getting there.
Okay, so forget Sunday. Now, how many hours did you work on each of those days, Mr. Hendrickson?
I do not remember the hours for the days, but I calculated all the hours together, and it was 52.
Let me understand what you just said to me. You don't know how many hours in each day, but you calculated them together and came up to 52 hours. Would you repeat what he said to me? Because it's mind-boggling to me.
He said, I do not remember the hours for the days, but I calculated all the hours together, and it was 52.
How do you calculate all the hours? Let me ask my question, sir. How do you calculate up to 52 when you don't remember how many hours you worked each day?
Looking at the text messages and seeing when I got there and when I left, because I texted him when I opened the doors and when I locked up.
Well, then you know how many hours you worked.
Technically.
What?
Technically, yes.
What do you mean, technically, yes?
Because they're not completely correct. I didn't text him right when I got there, and I didn't text him right when I was leaving. I texted him when I got home or after I had started.
Okay, let's go back.
A Joyner and Harlan Hendrickson have accused their former employer, Christopher Ricks, of vandalizing Noah's car and refusing to pay wages. Christopher claims they slandered his business.
Now, you have photographs of the place before you started painting and afterwards? You have any photographs?
Absolutely.
I'd like to see them.
It's just the paint on the floor.
Just a second.
Okay, very well.
I have eyes. I can look at the pictures.
So the
I just want to take a look if I need any.
How they are before we paint them. That's before they're painted, Your Honor.
These are your photographs?
Yes, ma'am.
You painted the floor?
No, ma'am. We had to declutter a couple of units that had stuff.
One unit.
Like that.
Shh, don't speak. You had to, what you call declutter, and you had to sweep it up before you started painting.
It was worse.
Okay. And did you?
Yes, ma'am.
And is this a picture of what you allege it looked like?
All of the units had stuff in them just like that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And this is the floor that you painted?
Yes.
Is that the floor that they painted?
One of the three.
Okay. So they painted the floors. Did you paint anything else other than the floors?
Well, we painted the walls.
They painted the walls. They dripped on the floors. They are.
Okay.
So they're brand new flooring.
We were told it didn't have to be perfect.
Just a second. You didn't put these floors in,
I did.
you? I thought they painted them.
No. They were to do touch-up only, and there was one unit that needed to be finalized, and that was the one you saw that was bad.
We were having to
the floors were.
I told you, don't speak when he is. I'll come back to you.
The floors were brand new, and like I said, I provided drop cloths and such. They didn't use them.
That's not true. Shh. What is this?
That's the one unit that was not completely emptied out.
Okay. This one.
Yeah, there was one single unit.
And this one.
That's the same unit.
And this.
Same unit.
Okay. And the rest of them were cleaned out.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct?
All new floor.
Yes, the pictures of the
the pictures of the mess are all one unit of the 20. Okay. And how many units did they paint for you, Mr. Ricks?
They didn't finish any of the units. They were in 3 units, Your Honor.
Okay.
And 3 units have damage.
Okay. What you're telling me is they didn't do a good job in 3 units.
Correct.
Okay. Well,
They
that,
didn't finish it at all.
That, I'd like to see the photographs of what they didn't finish.
The paper copies, there you go. And there should be one that's a door that's not even painted. You can see it's two-tone. And the flooring is where they, I guess, scraped the floor.
Okay, this is the same picture as this.
No, that's different. I can show you on my phone, too, if you'd like. They're different. It's like in one of the areas they tried to use a tool to scrape paint off in different areas, and that's what was left.
You're talking about...
That's not true. There was no tools provided for us at all.
I didn't ask you anything. Is what you're saying to me, sir, that the reason you didn't... I assume you weren't paid for this work. Is that correct?
No. Not even for cleaning out that unit, really.
Weren't paid. Now, I assume, Mr. Ricks, that you didn't pay them because you thought that they did a poor job.
No, ma'am, that's not accurate.
Why didn't you pay them?
They didn't do the job.
They worked there at some point.
I agreed with Harland only to pay him $3,000.
Harlan, that was you.
Yes.
That's you. You agreed with Harlan.
For that job.
Yes.
Your Honor, that's
for
incorrect.
$3,000.
You're almost finished. Do you understand? You're almost done. 1, 2, 3 warnings, then I'm finished with you. And it wouldn't bother me at all. I have to tell you, it wouldn't bother me at all. Now, what arrangement did you make as far as payment is concerned?
On June...
Mr. Hendrickson started the job first on June 23rd.
He was to meet me, and he did. He was late. He was supposed to meet me early. I showed him the whole scope of the project because he hadn't been there, and what I wanted done, what I expected, and we agreed on the price of $3,000. And after they got halfway done, which was 10 units, I would pay them $1,500. And then when they were complete, I would pay the entire $3,000. They didn't get past 3, Your Honor.
3 of the 20.
Yes, ma'am, and they didn't finish any of those at all.
Okay. What I'm saying to you, Mr. Ricks, you took one guy.
Right.
Who you didn't know from a hole in the wall.
Yes, ma'am.
You took a second guy who you knew was there because I believe that you knew he was there painting with Mr.
Right.
Joyner.
Mr. Hendricks actually fired him twice. You can see in text message if you need to see that.
You mean Mr. Hendrickson fired Mr. Joyner?
Yeah, he says right here.
Oh,
Correct, Your Honor.
Just a second.
Well, let me just pull up the text message since it's so
But you do know that Mr. Joyner was there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It was a group. They decided to do a group thing. This is right here it says, never mind, no one's not going to help me anymore.
Group chat.
And then there's an additional where he says again that I'm going to let Noah have a couple of days off.
Just a second. Mr. Hendrickson, so on the 29th, you indicated to Mr. Ricks that Noah, that would be you, is not going to be helping me anymore.
Yes.
Yes, and you want to tell me why?
Noah and I had...
No, look at me.
Noah and I had an argument at the painting job
Tell me about
we were arguing...
Tell me about the argument, sorry. When did you have it?
We were arguing about the detail that we were putting into our work. I walked in and Noah was paying a lot of attention to detail, and Chris told me that the job did not have to be perfect. He just wanted it to be done.
Just a second. So Noah was trying to be careful.
Yes.
And you said you don't have to be so careful.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that what it boils down to?
Yes, Your Honor.
And that was on the 29th.
Yes, correct.
So after that, he said he's not going to work for you anymore.
Correct.
Now, so I gather from that statement that since you were working there since the 23rd, you didn't feel as if you had to be so careful to detail.
That is...
I mean, that would follow from what you just said to me. If Noah wanted to be more careful to detail, you say, oh, no, you don't have to be so careful to detail. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? And goodbye, which is what this says. So I have to assume, conjure up in my mind, that if you doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be such a great job. It can be, as my great-grandmother used to say, there's a difference between a schmearer and a painter.
That's right.
Now, I don't know who would understand that except another Jewish grandmother. But you understand the connotation. You can smear paint. I have a 9-year-old granddaughter who can smear paint on a wall. But if I want something professionally done, I try to get a painter.
I told Chris I was not a professional.
Just a second. You see, that's my problem with Mr. Ricks. If you want something done right, get a man, not a boy. Tell me the worst thing he told you to do.
I don't know what you were wanting from me.
What I want you to do is to tell me what he told you about black mold. Don't make it up.
Defendant Christopher Ricks claims Noah Joyner and Harlan Hendrickson slandered his business on social media. Noah and Harlan say they were not paid for painting Christopher's apartment complex.
Now, if I wanted somebody to work on one of my cars, I would not get somebody off the street who was selling popcorn at a concession stand and say to him, by the way, my car over there needs a new battery. Now, would I take my car back to the same dealership? Maybe not, because they're very expensive. But would I find somebody who at least had a referral, a recommendation? I have a 20-unit apartment complex that was empty. You want to use it as a business. You don't hire two schmearers to go to go and take care of your property. But you have to, if you didn't like their work, fire them. And if their work was not complete and only 3 units were touched, which I don't think that they argue with. So far, that's correct, Mr. Hendrickson?
That is incorrect.
How many units did you
5.
paint? 5.
And I actually painted 7, but I didn't complete the last 2. I just did the trim in it.
So you completed 5 units out of 20.
Yes.
I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. And you agreed to $3,000.
That's incorrect, Your Honor.
How much?
We did not have a meeting to talk about a payment until the 29th, and that was actually part of the reason that him and I were arguing. Chris and I and Noah met at a coffee shop, and we spoke about how much we would be getting paid. We agreed on a $3,000 price for the end of the month of July because Christopher was supposed to be going on a vacation until July 20th.
So the $3,000 was mentioned.
It was mentioned, and then he told me and Noah, Chris told me and Noah that on the 30th he would pay us half of what he was going to be paying us.
Just a second. You were hired to paint 20 units.
Yes, Your Honor.
You painted 5, which is 1/4 of the $3,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's say those apartments were complete, not satisfactorily to him, but now you both agree that the $3,000 price was mentioned for the 20 units.
Yes.
It would be $750 if they did 5 units.
That's all, $750. That would be $750 if you completed only 1/4 of them. Okay. Did you pay them any money for painting, yes or no?
No.
Okay, good. So best case scenario for the painting is $750. And I haven't gotten to his counterclaim yet, but you have one more claim. And your claim is that Mr. Ricks vandalized your car by throwing paint on it.
Sure.
Tell me when that happened.
We woke up July 20th, 2020.
7:20. Where did you wake up?
At our house, our apartment. Hot Springs,
Okay,
Arkansas.
tell me what happened.
I woke up to my car being splattered with the same color paint that we were using in his apartments.
Okay, so your car had paint on it when you woke up. Did you see anybody do it?
No, ma'am.
Just let me take a look at the photograph. Okay. Did you file a police report?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see it. Okay, so no one saw this, but you say that there is a video that you have. I assume, Mr. Ricks, unless you want to tell me that you did, in fact, throw paint primer on his car.
I absolutely did not.
Okay, and you did not see anybody throw paint primer on the car. But you say there was a video. Noah stated that he has video from his apartment complex pointing right at Noah's vehicle.
I think the police put that in there because they had interviewed.
So there is no video?
No, ma'am.
And you did not witness this?
No, ma'am.
And other than thinking that this paint primer was a result of actions and retaliation for something that you did, do you have any witness that saw him do that?
No, ma'am.
I have to see proof that the defendant had anything to do with this car.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? Did you take the car in to be cleaned?
Yes, I cleaned it myself just to avoid further damage.
Yes.
But after I cleaned it, I took it to the auto body shop to see what the actual repair.
Okay, do you have pictures of it after you cleaned it?
After we cleaned it, it looked somewhat like this. And then we had to take it to the body shop. They buffed out the rest of it for us.
So what you're telling me is you took it to an auto body shop, and the auto body shop...
They helped clean up the rest of it, but they still took off our top coat.
Okay, very good. Well, you have no proof he did it. So far, he owes you $750.
May I interject that he doesn't even own that car?
I don't care. I'm not giving him any money for the car. There's no proof you did anything to the car. Okay, I'm not going to get into filing a false ABC complaint with the sheriff, because he's not going to be able to prove to me that it's true other than by what he says are his own observations. He doesn't have anybody here who's under the age of 21 who's going to testify that you served him alcohol. So I'm not going to entertain that part of your claim. Money owed for slander, that I would like to see. That's the cross complaint. So far, plaintiff has $750 for painting 1/4 of the places that he was contracted to do.
This is the first document, and I had calls just pour in wanting to know if I'd seen it. And
Just
then,
a second. Don't tell me it calls pouring in, sir, because
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
hearsay. What's the date on this? This one that I'm reading. It says 1 day ago.
It was around the first couple of weeks of July.
Okay. I'd like you to tell me, Mr. Joyner, the conversation, where it took place and under what circumstances, when you had a conversation with Mr. Ricks about covering up certain hazards. I'd like to hear that.
What would you like to hear?
I'd like to hear where the conversation took place, exactly what you said to him and what he said to you.
Where it took place?
Yes, where it took place, exactly what you said to him and exactly what he said to you.
I'm confused. So, like, what is?
We are on now.
I know the post about the
post.
Yeah.
We're on now a post. So I want you to tell me when you had the conversation where you were and what you said to him, mostly what he said to you, about covering up certain things with paint.
Okay, yes, ma'am. So we were told to cover up holes and stuff with caulking and then paint over it. And then we were told that...
Now look at me.
I was told to go declutter one of the units that had a bunch of old parquet tile, ceramic tiles piled high to the ceiling with old ceiling fans.
Well, that's...
deteriorating.
Yeah, that was the unit that was on.
Right.
Go ahead.
Right.
And?
So he told me that
I want you to tell me the worst thing he told you to do in the apartment complex. Tell me the worst thing he told you to do.
There was a lot of terrible...
No. Just stop and think of what is the worst thing he told you to do, the worst instruction he gave you.
Pretty much that I should just do it without the proper protective...
No, that's general, sir.
Okay.
I asked you specific. You posted something about him, about his apartment complex, about the work that you were doing, and I want you to tell me the worst thing he told you to make short shrift of or to cover up.
Water damage, black mold.
Okay, let's go to black mold. When did you have a discussion with him about black mold?
The day
Where
that
were
he
you?
told me to declutter the apartment. So that would be Wednesday, June...
So there was one apartment that he told you to declutter. Okay, and that would be June what?
Monday, June 27th. I think that's what that...
Was he there in person?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'd like you to tell me what he said to you and what you said to him.
Told me to go...
Look here.
Told me to declutter the unit, take out all of it, throw it away, and to just...
No, don't look over there.
Just to clean it, basically.
To clean it.
So that it would be ready to be painted.
And?
I did. I cleaned it.
And?
I'm done.
You done?
I don't know what else to say. That's...
Well, I want you to clean it. Doesn't tell me anything about black mold.
I don't know what you were wanting from me.
What I want you to do is to tell me what he told you about black mold. Don't make it up. Your post, based upon your testimony, was slanderous.
I got confused. I don't know what you were really trying to, ask out of me.
I asked you specific questions. You gave me answers. Now is not the time to play catch-up.
Defendant Christopher Ricks claims Noah Joyner and Harlan Hendrickson slandered his business on social media. Noah and Harlan say they were not paid for painting Christopher's apartment complex.
Now, tell me what he told you about black mold.
He didn't tell me anything about the black mold.
Great. And what did he tell you about rat feces?
Didn't tell me anything about rat feces. I handled all that stuff without the lawyers.
Then you did that all yourself. Well, in this posting you said, Chris, that would be you, wanted us to paint over chips, possible, dust, maybe, mold, never. He never told you that. That's what you just told me. Black mold, rat feces, and urine. He never told you to cover up those things. You may have done it, but according to you, he just said, clean it.
He had told me to cover up the mold that was in
I
the
don't
utility
believe that.
faucets of the apartment.
Oh, I don't believe that. In a second. That's Mr. Joyner.
Yeah, it was Mr.
No,
Joyner,
this is
but
Mr. Joyner's
trying to communicate
post.
together.
And he never told him anything. According to him, he said, just clean it. You have the second post?
That one was taken down, and this is the second post that he reposted, and then his account got blocked because they don't allow that type of behavior. This is the next one, and this is where he claimed to be a bartender on Facebook, and he just took it down recently. It's been up there for months. And I never hired him for a bartender.
That's all right. I don't care. That's not important.
Okay.
What I'm concerned about is what he says that you told him to do, which you did not.
Right.
He acknowledges you did not. Now, you have no witnesses here.
I was going to bring one person, and she's got COVID.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. You have
yes,
no
I have
witnesses
no one.
here.
I have no one, Your Honor.
Very good. Okay. I find that the things that you posted are slanderous with regard to what he instructed you to do, Mr. Joyner. You were the posting person as far as covering up black mold, feces, and urine, and therefore to beware of Rick's Realty. Your post, based upon your testimony, was slanderous because he never told you that. So.
But you never really cleared that. I'm sorry. You never really cleared it up. I got confused. I don't know what you were really trying to ask out of me.
Yeah, just a second.
It was
I don't care what.
told to me that I needed to take care of all that stuff and throw it away. Yes, ma'am. It was told to me that. That's why I posted. It was a warning as to so no one else would have to deal with that same stuff.
Very good. Very good. I'm ruling now. So now it's my time. I asked you specific questions. You gave me answers. Now is not the time to play catch up. I find that by posting that he instructed you to cover up black mold, people responded to actually, and rat feces, I don't know how you cover rat feces and urine with paint, and to stay away from his place of business without cause, because what you told me was, he told me to clean it up, that's slanderous. And so on the counterclaim that he has for slander, I am awarding him $2,750. That's a net to him of $2,000 because your claim of $750 for wages is absorbed by his counterclaim. So on your claim, you get zero, zippity-doo-dah. I'm awarding him $2,000 for slander. We're done here. Thank you very much.
What about the damages,
We
Your
are
Honor?
finished. Hire a professional, Mr. Riggs. You want a schmearer, that's what you get.
This court is adjourned.
Regardless of terminology and how things got messed up, why would you expect someone to clean up rat feces, all of this stuff, and do it for free?
It's clear no good deed goes unpunished. I tried to help those kids.
Don't understand any of this, really.
Well, they were trying to extort money from me and not do work and be lazy and just get paid for work they didn't do.
We're trying to move on.
We're going to move on.
You kind of try to give people chances when they're down on their luck. I've always been a philanthropist to try to help people out, and sometimes you get burned.
First of all, if you're an employee and you're working either by the hour or by the day, you're not a weekly employee or bi-weekly salaried employee, you're supposed to keep track of the hours where you work, especially if you want to, if there is a potential of suing later for them.
As the plaintiff, that is your burden. I was interested to see that you were willing to take that information from the defendant, because if it were me, if the plaintiff didn't have it, that's not the defendant's burden to prove the plaintiff's case. So I knew you did it to sort of round out the sides of the case, but I think that if you as the plaintiff want to come here and ask the court for money, you better have your ducks in a row. And
well, that's true. That was true. That was probably an error for me. Not that he got anything, but
we got where we needed to go.
We got where we needed to go, but that's true. It's not the defendant's burden.
Yeah.
Although the defendant acknowledged that he worked for him.
He did. Very forthcoming and honest. So, but that again played better for the defendant, as we saw in the ruling, that he was professional.
You're supposed to have your ducks in a row.
Yes, and as a plaintiff, you don't get any money if you can't even keep track of the hours that you work.
The second thing is that the call to alcohol and beverage, if you'd feel as if you're doing a public service by reporting behavior that you think could be potentially dangerous, I support that. Mm-hmm. But if you're doing it as a retaliatory act and you don't do it immediately, it's like reporting suspected child abuse. Mm-hmm. If you see a child being abused or neglected and you do nothing and wait a month until you have a fight with the person who is the abuser, that creates a suspicion that it's vindictive and there's a motive to lie.
Of course.
Because it wasn't done immediately.
And they sought another job from the same man after reporting him.
Right. To the defendant's detriment, in my eyes, is if you have a big apartment complex and you have guys who were in the jewelry business and didn't make it, then came to work for you in your theater and really weren't very good at that either, then I wouldn't hire them to house paint.
Yeah. That actually requires a skill.
Without any credentials. So I think that you have to be careful if you have a valuable piece of real estate.
Agreed.
Anyway, he can't slander him, and he did.
I think it all worked out how it was supposed to.
I hope so.
Please step forward.
Ryan Hastings is suing his former roommates, Peyton Kammer for security deposits, personal belongings, and filing a false restraining order.
Mr. Hastings, you and the defendant were roommates? I'm not quite understanding.
Yes, correct.
Clearly, whether you were roommates or in a relationship. What was it?
It was just roommates.
When did you start to be roommates?
In September of 2020.
Did you know each other before?
Yes.
How?
We were just friends that met at a party and hung out often.
Starting when?
That was in December of 2019.
And what made you decide to room together?
We were both looking for a place to live, so since we both needed that, we found this apartment together.
2 bedrooms?
Correct.
And you moved in with animals,
Correct.
I understand from the complaint.
Correct.
Cats?
Yes.
How many?
I had 2.
I had 2.
I didn't ask you anything yet. You had 2. And Miss Kammer had 2. Any other animals?
No.
So you started to live together during COVID?
Correct.
Were you working?
Yes.
Was Miss Kammer working?
Yes.
What was the rent on the apartment?
It was $13.65.
And you each paid half?
Correct.
So far, correct? Was everything okay in 2020? September, October, November, December?
As far as rent?
No, as far as the living arrangement.
Oh, in 2020, yeah, we just had many squabbles, but overall, we were just fine.
I'm going to ask you the same question. 2020, everything okay?
No.
What happened in 2020?
It was emotional warfare since I moved in with him. There was arguments with everything, even simple things like cleaning the dishes, just nonstop. I was terrified of him living with him. I couldn't bring anything up without it being an argument.
Okay, so prior to moving in with Mr. Hastings, where did you live?
With my parents.
How old are you?
I'm 21.
Is this the first time you had an apartment?
Yes.
And how far away were your parents from this apartment?
Probably like 10 minutes.
If you were terrified, you should have moved home.
I wasn't allowed to.
You weren't allowed to because?
Because I wasn't allowed to live with my dad and stepmom because they moved into a 55 and over neighborhood.
When? If you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory.
They moved in a little after I moved into my apartment. I moved into my apartment to prepare for them moving out.
I just don't want to hear drama. If you had fights over who's going to clean the dishes, I don't want to hear terrified unless you're terrified. And if you're terrified and you're 21 years old, you go back to where you came from, to your parents' house. If you're terrified, may not have liked it, but that's just kid drama. So, squabbles in 2020. Your lawsuit says that she disposed of your belongings. She filed a restraining order.
Yes.
As a result of the restraining order, you were evicted from the apartment.
Yes.
It was a false restraining order. You hired a lawyer to appeal the finding of the judge.
Yes.
That you had harassed her because this restraining order was based on harassment.
Yes.
May I see a copy of it, please?
I have a copy of the restraining order.
Of the order or what it was based on?
It said it has the whole thing. It says what it was based on.
Yeah, I see what she has. It doesn't look like it was what it was based on. You do a write-up of what it was based on.
On the front page, in a little box, it has a little description of what happened.
Okay. So the judge who heard this case, and I'm assuming everything in this write-up is true. On the above date, which was the 7th of September 2021, on the above date and time, defendant and the plaintiff engaged in a verbal argument over household chores. The defendant then made comments to the plaintiff that he would go crazy on her and raised his fist. The defendant stated this multiple times and started shaking in anger, causing the plaintiff to be in fear for her life. And you had a hearing on this?
Yes.
You had a hearing on this. You told this to a judge?
Yes.
Yes.
I want you to tell me what you told the judge, or did you tell the judge anything?
I told the judge that I was raising my voice, but I was standing a good amount of distance away from her at the time, and that I was shaking because I wasn't being listened to, and that was it. There was no physical interaction there, only verbal interaction.
Did the judge say to you, how would you describe shaking in anger because you weren't being listened to?
I was shaking just because I was angry. I was just trying to keep my composure.
Well, that would frighten me.
Ryan Hastings claims his former roommate, Peyton Kammer, owes for a security deposit and personal belongings.